What's up, everybody? We're on the eve of the holidays, and a lot of death in the air. Yeah, I think around the holidays, we lose a lot of people. Recently, I was just informed that Ecstasy from the group Houdini. If you're a rap person, you definitely know who Houdini is. He passed away recently. I got the information today, so I posted it. So I'm trying to give him a little tribute. Uh, Also lost a good friend of mine, fellow law enforcement guy, worked for Port Authority, also a promoter, Tony Brooks. Young man, he was doing a lot of things out in DR, and he was really trying to give back to people of color. And he was a promoter extraordinaire with me along our tenure. But just so much depth, and I think it's good that we have Pastor Graves with us this evening because during this time, this is a rough time where a lot of time death comes in instead of gifts. And we need to make sure we say prayers for those who are going through things, COVID, who have lost loved ones, mothers. Shout out to my man, Fred Richardson. He just lost his mother. So, I mean, there are people that are caretakers and just so much going on right now in this world that we need to reach out and and check on our other our friends and our family members. If you think my thing is my slogan I've been using right now. If you think about somebody, reach out. Not just go to their Facebook page and see if they're all right. Just if you have their number, pick up and call them. If you are not, if you don't have their personal information, just uh however you reach them and speak to them, send them a message and say hello and how are you, because you really don't know what anybody is going through. I'm your host Bill Forster with my co-host Kevin Branzetti. This is Real Talk Chronicles. Kevin, how are you doing tonight?
Excellent. Thank you. Good evening,
Good,
everybody. Hi.
good. Happy holidays to you, Kevin.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Yes, and joining us this evening, I asked him to come along. We have some exciting stuff that he helped me put together for January. I have Pastor Graves, Kevin Graves in the building. Pastor, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Like I said, there was a lot of death surrounding me today. And who wants to be the bearer of bad news? Shout out to my information people that have informed me about the passing of people that we know or have connections with. Like I said, Tony Brooks was a good friend of mine. He was a Port Authority police officer, class act gentleman, and after his retirement, he moved off to DR, and over in DR, Dominican Republic, for people who didn't know what DR meant. Um, like, okay, he went over there and he started a foundation for I think underprivileged children and basketball camps and things of that magnitude. And I was informed that he came home because he got sick. He got COVID, and he came home, and it just seemed like he was doing better. And then recently, he just found out that we got news that he passed away today or yesterday. So, I mean, it's really something, you know, ecstasy of the group Houdini, 56 years old. Uh, Rumor has it, and I say rumor with no disrespect, that he had passed away in the arms of his loved one. So his lady, I think, at the time, and we don't know what the reasoning is for that. So, you know, is it COVID? Is it things of that magnitude? Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Kevin Branzetti, and our co-host, Pastor Kevin Graves, because he is family. Pastor, Kevin, I'm going to defer for a second. Pastor, can you just give us some insight on the holiday seasons, that they can bring joy and that can bring pain? Can you elaborate on that a little bit for us, please?
Yes, I can. And yes, the holiday season does bring joy. And in this extraordinary year of 2020, uh, it to spend time, if we can, with family. Of course, we know we're in the midst of a pandemic and we can't do too much gathering, or if we do gather, it has to be in small numbers with social distancing. Um, but nevertheless, and I think I want to go back to what you said initially with regards to giving someone a call. Even if you can't visit them, call them. And in this day and age, we have FaceTime. So that helps too. You know, I want to
Yes.
see your face. I want to hear your voice. Don't text me. We spoke about that
Yeah.
before. We do the texting thing. I'm guilty of that too. So you know, those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. So I've definitely been guilty of doing a lot of texting. But we've lost something in a sense where we don't talk anymore. We text, even around the dinner table. And what I'm hoping for this holiday season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, if you celebrate Christmas, Kwanzaa, the holidays, Hanukkah, is that we can use this time to really appreciate those around us, those who love us, and begin to embrace our loved ones. And even if we don't get along with our loved ones, and yes, we have those relationships too around the holiday season. Uh, for many, the holiday season is, oh boy, the loved ones, those in-laws, the family coming from different states and overseas. Oh my goodness, the ones who say all the wrong things and do all the wrong things, and yet we got to sit down and have dinner together. Well, I'm hoping that we can begin to lay down grievances, arguments that bring division, and we can really grow to appreciate one another. That's my hope in this pandemic year. Uh, for those who may not have family, this is a very difficult time. Depression sets in. When you watch television and you see these holiday shows and you see the commercials, families, men and women and children gathering and going shopping and sleigh riding and having a good time, when you don't have that, uh, it hurts. Whether we want to agree with that or not, it hurts when we're alone and we feel no one cares. And this has been happening even before the pandemic. The holiday season is a very difficult time for a lot of people, even in the area of domestic violence. So we'll even touch on that at another time. There are a lot of hurting people right now, a lot of people who are even thinking about committing suicide. And we need to pray. And if we see something, say something. We need to talk to people. How are you doing? Maybe even the old lady that's next door and who doesn't appear to have any family, or she doesn't get very many visitors. Maybe we can go over there and knock on her door and ask her if she needs anything. You need any groceries? You're okay? And if you don't need any groceries, are you okay? That means a lot. I'll stop there.
You know, Pastor, elaborate on that a little more, just a little more, because it takes a real kind heart to go to somebody and ask them, do they need something? Because a lot of times we take that word when we see somebody in the street. Hey, how you doing? How's it going? We take that word for granted, and what I mean by that, I never forget. I ran into a friend one time, downtown near the courts. I think I was going to court for something on a case, and you know, you run into somebody. Hey, how you doing? And what's going on? And he really started to go in and tell me what was going on and was bothering him. And I was like, well, I kind of got to go. And he was like, no, you asked. And I was like, oh, okay. like, like I never had nobody, you know, what after him, I had somebody else do that. So I've learned from that is that don't ask somebody how you doing if you're not really ready to find out, you know, but you know, because that word that we use around so loosely really means something to somebody because you never know how somebody perceives you as an ear and a vessel. I say it all the time. You know, Pastor, I'm sure you're a pastor, Kev. You know, you have a good ear for friendship. You know, a lot of times I get them all the time. I get calls, text messages. It's almost like trying to solve people's situations. Some I think you put a little bit too much on me, but God don't give you anything you can't handle. But and it can come from different avenues of just me financially or anything like that. And I tell people sometimes, like I had to tell somebody one time, like, you felt comfortable enough to ask me to lend you money, but do you think you're the only person that's asking me? You know what I'm saying? And then on
Mm-hmm.
top of that, like, what about the responsibilities that I have as a father, a husband, or anything of that magnitude, or as a brother, a cousin, or to other people, and I get it. And then sometimes it's not what you're asking that means you're in dire need. It just means you're just asking because you think I have the bag. You understand what I'm saying? And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well,
I do.
I, I I didn't see me driving. I didn't see me posting a picture of me in a Maserati and in a mansion. You know what I'm saying? So what made you think
Mm-hmm.
I had it? You understand what
Right.
I'm saying? Like you never know anyone else other situations. I just want to shout out everybody that's chiming in tonight with it. This is Real Talk Chronicles. If you like it, share it. I see you, Gina. How are you, sister? Ronnie, thank you. Shout out to Ronnie. Our good friend Teddy. Please give me some insight on Teddy. How's he doing? He has COVID, and Teddy's a moving machine. So everybody knows. What's up, Mark? Colin, hello, Colin. Uh, Marquetta, what's going on, everybody? Susan Vega. It's always good to see you in the building. Jay Burnett, thank you all for the passings of my friends and stuff of things of that magnitude. But like I said, this is the holiday season. um, how Real Talk came to fruition is because my mother passed away on the 18th of December, and then today is what's today's date? The 22nd or 23rd? 23rd,
23rd.
right? Yesterday was her anniversary of 13 years me burying her. So Christmas was never something that like I was so excited about. But to think of how I've evolved emotionally and as a person, where I celebrate her. Real Talk Chronicles now, it came to fruition for her. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
and to see how it's evolved is I'm so happy, and I hope she's happy. Her and my father looking down from above, and they're really enjoying themselves. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with that being said, Kev, we said we were definitely going to keep it light and not too hard on this topic before the Christmas, the eve of Christmas Eve. So I just want to ask you what Christmas means to you before we kind of go into um our conversation. You know what I'm saying about some stuff.
Sure, sure. Christmas is family. It's the
Right.
simplest thing, right? It's the simplest word. But what is family? It's getting together. It's enjoying each other's company. It could be being a shoulder to cry on, or a friendly face to laugh at, and no judgment. I have reconnected with cousins who I haven't seen in years, some in decades. Reconnected just recently because they're going through a hard time, and reconnected because a year
Right,
ago I was going through a hard time. I reconnected with other people, and the great thing about family is there's completely no judgment. Sorry, I don't know if you heard that in the background. I have this. I'm holding a video, and every so often it just plays because it
no,
doesn't like it.
no,
So it's family. It's family's no judgment to me. What's said amongst family stays amongst family, and you help family.
you, and that's a good thing because we talk about law enforcement family. You and I are on a common mission along with Pastor Graves, to bring some enlightenment and some peace and harmony within the law enforcement family. And we talk about our brothers in blue, and a lot of times I personally feel that there's a disconnect with that between light blue and dark blue. And I'm going to ask you a question later. Uh, Matter of fact, well, I'll ask you now. Like, a lot of times, people of color run across other people of color, like myself, become a law enforcement. And I'm not going to say this happened to all. I'm not going to say all people of color view this, but a lot of times I can be called a sellout. I can be called, a Tom. a Dick, a Harry, because I joined NYPD. Can I understand why a lot of times people gravitate to the blue and don't let it go? Yes. But then I think I've been blessed to put myself around like-minded people that understand that whatever I've done and wherever I've come from, it's just a job. You understand what I'm saying? I wanted
Sure.
to ask you, have you ever experienced people of your color, your descent, ostracize you or kind of talk down to you for joining law enforcement?
No. No, I can't think of that. There are people I hung out with when I was younger that I had to stop hanging out with when I became law enforcement.
Right,
You
right,
know, they just, you know, they do things differently in this world.
right, right, right,
You
right.
know, some of them have some drug addictions and things along those lines that I can't be a part of.
Of course, of course.
But no, I've never had somebody say I'm a sellout or, you know, a traitor or something along those lines. Now,
Yo, and you know, it's so funny how different people take on different, you know, look at view things differently. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times people of color, brown and black people will look at when you become law enforcement, look at like, oh, you sold out. You know what I'm saying?
sure.
And it's so funny how it doesn't happen in our white friends and family um counterparts because you know I am blessed to have family of all different backgrounds, first cousins, and I say this with all proud respect, of white descent, of Asian descent, of Latin descent, of African American descent, and they might be listening now, or I can call their names out. You know what I'm saying? You know, because I always say a story ain't true unless somebody can co-sign it. And you know, I mean, I really do feel that, but the fact that you know, I come from a very diverse family. You know what I'm saying? You know, my father's, you know, if you look at my father's father or mother or something, you know, skin tone is maybe of yours, Kevin. You understand what I'm saying? So we know
Wow.
ancestry, slavery wasn't that far, you know, white descent. So I'm saying the melting pot is very strong in my family, but to have people understand, like you know, to take a job in law enforcement for people of color sometimes wasn't like a badge of honor where it may have been for a white person. I don't know. You can elaborate on that. Um, and then, Pastor, you can come in and give your ideology. What do you think about things like that? So, you know, but it's so crazy, Kev, that I was just thinking about that. How, you know, for people of color, you want us in your communities. You want people of color to protect and serve, but then not everybody says this, but there are people in there that'll say, "Yo, you know, you're a sellout. You the man now. Like I can't interact with you. Like that's crazy to me." And I when I speak to school kids and students, I tell them all the time, take this job, one of the best jobs in the world. I met some of the most beautiful people, the funniest people in the world, people that should be on TV. You know what I'm saying? Like, Kevin, I mean, there wasn't a day we didn't laugh.
No, no, and every day's a different day, right? There's no,
Absolutely.
we're not on an assembly line, right? I'm not, you know, turning
Exactly.
some ratchet 7,000 times a day.
Exactly. Exactly. Pastor, give us some. What do you think the reasons are those for? Why those things happen like that?
Well, there are some of us within our community that have an issue with law enforcement. Not everyone is a friend of law enforcement. You have some individuals who have preconceived notions of what policing is about. And unfortunately, I think it's very important that we do not look at the blue and paint a broad brush over policing. And we begin to say all white cops are racist. That's not fair, nor is it true. I think it's important that we do not become that which we despise. And what I mean by that is, uh, if I may go back into time, do a little history lesson with regards to how the United States became the United States with the American Revolution. The founding fathers of this country had an issue with taxation without representation. They were being oppressed by Great Britain. But interestingly enough, if we look deep into our own history, the once oppressed became the oppressor over time. So we have to be very, very careful that we do not become that which we despise, in a sense where we are now judging people unfairly because of their uniform. Now, what's the difference between a cop who can take his uniform off at the end of a shift versus someone who's black? We can't take our color, we can't take our skin color off at the end of the day. This stays with us until there's no more breath in our body. At the end of the day, a cop can take off his uniform and go about his business. So that there's the difference. But it's shallow. There's shallow thinking there. There's prejudices there. There's ignorance there. I never say all people are this way, because who am I to judge someone when I have not sat down and met with every member of that particular group? It would be unfair. So there are stereotypes that we have to deal with in our society. And then there are those who are dealing with trauma, who when they see a police officer, there's something in them where they get nervous, or maybe it's something that they read about in the newspaper or saw on television. They see a history of misconduct against a particular community. So therefore, we automatically come to the conclusion that all police are out to get this particular community. And I understand where that can come from. I understand it. And we do have issues. And this is why we have Real Talk Chronicles, to talk about these issues. And we all believe, all three of us believe in accountability. So we hold our officers to a very high standard, especially here in New York. And why especially here in New York? Because we get a lot of attention. We're the largest police force in New York, in the country. So we get a lot of attention. So I always tell, in fact, I'll even share this with you. When I meet with some of the new recruits out of the academy, when they come by the precinct for training, and I had the privilege of, in 2019, to sit down and talk with them. And I asked our cops, well, why do you want to do this? What's the purpose of this? And they gave me answers like, well, I want to serve the community. My father was a police officer. My grandfather was a police officer. And I always go back to the point that it's important that you do this because you want to make a difference in the community. It's more than just a job where you get a paycheck in 2 weeks and in 20 years you can retire. You have to genuinely care and love to serve people. If you are not a people person, then you need to find another line of work. I'll stop there.
Go ahead, Kev. I know you wanted to say something.
No, I have a lot of things, but I want to go back to a little earlier in this, Bill. You were talking about, like when I grew up and I became a cop and what did people think? So maybe think a little bit about, being a teenager. I grew up in Queens, Woodhaven, Queens. I would say lower middle class and predominantly white neighborhood, right? Like you go back to the 70s and 80s, New York City was far more segregated. Right? I went to a public elementary school. There were no brown kids in the school. It was public school, which is, like you look at it today and that kind of sounds odd. I went to high school, was the complete opposite. I was one of like 15 white kids in the school who graduated, my senior year, right? Like, so, I've seen both ends. But growing up at that 17, 18, 19, guys, that's what we talked about. Take the police test, the fire test, sanitation. That was beaten to our heads. It had to come from our parents, from
become civil servants.
The older generation. Us. My father was a cop. I think about the guy across the street from me was sanitation. This guy next to me is like Con Ed. That's MTA worker across the street as well. Like that's what I grew up around.
Yes.
So really, like almost every guy I knew took the test.
And it's so funny that you said that, Kev. That it's so funny that you said that, because that similar, being I guess with middle class, if that's the title, lower, I don't know what I was. I'm not going to say that we didn't have food on the table.
Royalty.
That never happened. You know, if I told a story when I write a book, I'm not going to tell you that we didn't have any food to eat. You know, I can tell you something about maybe not having hot water to heat sometime, absolutely. But you know, it is what it is. But the thing is, when you talk about being around like-minded people, you know, my my family taught me, even when I thought I had a chance to have some kind of athletic scholarship or career in a sport, they were like, take a test. We at the time, I don't even know if the chief is still out. You know what I'm saying? The
Oh,
chief
yeah.
was right? Like you told every person of color or just anybody that had some kind of sense, go to the chief, get you a job. And the fact of it is, I can honestly say, out of my childhood friends, including females, they're predominantly, I could say, maybe close to 10 of us were in some form of law enforcement, some form of law enforcement. And then we're not even talking about civil servant aspect, just, you know, but some kind of law enforcement. I'm talking about, i.e., supervisors and law enforcement and PD or corrections of some magnitude or like that. But you know, law enforcement and or city agency. With that being said, you know, it was all about, well, wait a minute, if he can do it, I can do it. You understand what I'm saying? Now, don't get me wrong. And Pastor, this is something I want you to elaborate on before Kevin and I talk about this, a couple of videos that we want to discuss. Um, we had structure in our family, and it was love competition. When I say love competition, if Kevin and I grew up together and Kevin told me he took the test to be a police officer or he was going to take the test for the police officer, my first reaction was, well, pick me up an application or I'm going down with you. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not going to outshine me. You know, go ahead, Kev. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I remember taking the test with lots of my friends. We went together. We took the test. We all signed up for it. You know, that was just what you did.
Yeah, exactly. So I say that to say that it was, and don't get me wrong. I've grown up with some people now that are those people. You understand what I'm saying? And they still love me, and I love them, and I call them family. And they watch. They still watch me on doing what I'm doing now, and they applaud what I'm doing, and they respect me, and I respect them. And then even in the next breath, if I wanted to call them for something, I could call them. You know what I'm saying? And I say that not to say that as a badge of honor, but it's just saying like it reminds me of the movie like Denzel did with what's his name, Lithgow, um, where you know him and Ice T played. They grew up together. Ice T went left, and Denzel went right. If that's the terminology we're going to use, but they were still boys and they respect each other. That's what made me want to come back and be a police officer and work in Harlem. I chose to work in Harlem. I could have worked anywhere else, and I was blessed enough to be able to kind of navigate where I worked at. And I wanted to come back in Harlem because I wanted people to see me that knew me, that they could feel comfortable and be like, "Yo, B," you know what I'm saying? Like, "Yo, you," you know what I'm saying? You a police officer? Get out of here. You know, like I wanted that interaction. And I always said, if anybody that was on the left side of the game, and I say that with no disrespect to anybody that's listening, because I'm left-handed. So, you know what I'm saying? That was on the left side of the game, that when they saw me, they felt comfortable, like to say, yo, that's my man. And what I became to Harlem was somebody that Harlem protected. The old school Harlem guys protected because they felt comfortable enough to say, yo, that's my man. That's my friend. You know what I'm saying? Can I run in the store, double parked or whatever? And I'd be like, yo, it's all good. You know what I'm saying? And that's just a minuscule point of our interaction, but never compromising, never asking me to compromise who I was, and never putting me in a situation that I would be compromised. So I think I was the forever essence of community policing. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Sure.
Because I went anywhere around the world, but I wanted to come back to Harlem. And then anybody in Harlem that didn't want to interact with me, then we weren't cool, and I didn't care about you. and then I can convert back to who I was before I became a police officer. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like don't get this twisted where I'm law enforcement. I was able to be clean enough to get this job. And but don't disrespect the person that I was. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying I was a tough guy. I'm just saying I was a man. That's all. I'm just saying I was a straight man. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles on the eve of Christmas Eve. We are not going too hard and we're not going to be too disrespectful, but we're just trying to find a common way to
That's a funny statement. We're not going to be too disrespectful. I like that phrase.
Well, the reason why I say that because there are always somebody that's going to feel that no matter what I say or you say or Pastor says, they're not going to agree. You understand what I'm saying? So
we can't please them all, Bill.
Exactly. And I try not to. I just try to give you real talk. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we're all together collectively here. I want to read something that Jay Burnett wrote, and I just want to read what people are saying real quick. Jay Burnett said, unfortunately, those who know the history of policing in this country and now it came to fruition as an institution. Policing came out of the slave patriots. Have the feeling I can't blame them, but there has to be a reimagining of public safety, which is truly inclusive. Definitely. Lisa Davis is in the house. Shout out to my sister Lisa Davis. James Baker's in the building. James worked both sides. I'm gonna get James on the show one day. He's correction and PD. He's seen it from both sides. Ronnie, Black and Gold. What's up, Ronnie? He said Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, and Charles Kushner pardoned just now. Breaking news. Wow. We'll talk about your boy. Trump is pardoning everybody, Kevin, and I say that with love and affection, of course, you know that. But he can't stop pardoning everybody in his cabinet. James said the pardoning of Angel Orange's criminal cartel continues. You ain't seen nothing yet. Watch and wait. What's up, Crystal Spriggs in the building? Marquetta, Facts. In transit PD, we were supposed to let the bosses know if our assignments we were at our home districts. I never mentioned it, and I got mad love from people who knew me. Exactly. So, Pastor Graves, I'm sure it's coming back. Kev, so we talk about, like we said we was going to keep it quasi light, but there's a video that I want us to show everybody right now, and we're going to dissect it on the do's and the don'ts, and what could have been done and what should have been done, or maybe and how we would have handled it. You know what I'm saying? So I hope Pastor Graves comes back within the time frame, but if he doesn't, we'll just pop it up in right now anyway. So one man can't stop a show. But listen, we definitely want to talk about this video. If you got it, you can roll it. Go ahead, take your time. Everybody, and let me give a public service announcement. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. On the eve of Christmas Eve, we wish you wonderful blessings for the holidays. Next week, I didn't tell Kevin, I'm surprised. We're gonna have a vacation next week. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna be off. We're taking the whole week off. And see, I see it. You ready, Kevin? All right. Yep. Everybody, we're going to show this video right now, and we want your thoughts on this video. We're going to critique this video. Everybody, this is a video that we're going to critique, and we want your really honest opinion. Go. All right.
With breaking news in Virginia Beach, police just addressed a viral video of a sergeant handcuffing the wrong man in Lynn Haven Mall over the weekend, calling it traumatic and saying they could have done better.
What did he do? We just got family. But he did nothing. Y'all got the wrong person.
Police handcuffed Jamar Mackey in the food court, but later said he wasn't who they were looking for. Now the community is demanding answers. Thanks for watching. I'm Nicole Livis.
And I'm David Allen. Janet has the night off. 13 News Now has team coverage of the outrage this video has sparked. Allie Weatherton spoke to the man involved. We'll hear from her in just a minute. But we start with Evan Watson, who was at the police news conference. He's now live for us in Virginia Beach. Evan.
Virginia Beach Police Chief Paul Newdigate is apologizing to Jamar Mackey, saying he understands this was a traumatic event. The police department is now investigating the incident to see if it was at all justified. Newdigate says his officers were responding to a report of stolen credit cards that were used in the mall, and the suspect description matched Mackey. Officers then detained and handcuffed Mackey while he ate with his family at the mall. When officers realized they detained the wrong person, they took off the handcuffs and apologized. Newdigate says another person with dreadlocks was arrested for credit card fraud. The chief says the police department is now investigating the incident, looking at current policies and procedures. He said no one wants to be handcuffed in front of their family and apologized for the discomfort.
We have to be able to apologize when our actions greatly inconvenience a member of the community that we serve. So let me take this opportunity to personally extend my apology to Mr. Mackey for this incident. As a result, we are focusing on two main areas. Was the initial approach and stop justified? And were the use of handcuffs justified?
Newdigate says the Virginia Beach Police Department is still interviewing people involved in this incident and gathering facts as part of the investigation. They're also trying to get more video from the mall. He said that investigation needs to be finished before they review or make any changes to the policy and procedure that he mentioned earlier. He also asked Mr. Mackey to call the Virginia Beach Police Department so he could apologize in person. And one more thing regarding the officers not wearing masks in the video that's gone viral on social media, Newdigate says that is against department requirements and that will be, quote, addressed. Reporting live in Virginia Beach at City Hall, Evan Watson for 13 News Now.
Thank you for clarifying that, Evan. A lot of folks have talked about that. Well, Allie Weatherton picks up our team coverage now. She spoke to the president of the Virginia Beach NAACP and the man who was wrongly cuffed.
Jamar Mackey told me over the phone he went to do some Christmas shopping on Saturday with his fiance, their newborn baby, and 13-year-old son. But he said what happened inside the mall food court is something he'll never forget. Several local leaders are speaking out.
It was just wrong, and it was wrong for a number of reasons.
Virginia Beach NAACP President Dr. Karen Pruden is talking about this video, now viewed more than 1.5 million times.
What did he do? We just
family. It shows a Virginia Beach police officer detaining Jamar Mackey. Mackey's fiance picked up her phone and started filming.
But he did nothing. Y'all got the wrong person. We don't even have a black truck.
Mackey said police wrongly accused him of using stolen credit cards. Virginia Beach police say the officer handcuffed a person who matched the description of the reported suspect.
We are with our family. I got my baby here, a newborn. Why do y'all have him?
They eventually took Mackey out of the handcuffs and apologized to him and his family.
I sincerely apologize. It was
I mean, y'all just that was so embarrassing.
It's one of the reasons why community members distrust the police. That's an example why our community do not trust the police.
Dr. Pruden called the video concerning and upsetting and said change is needed now.
My empathy level is off the chart, but my level to see change is even higher than my empathy level because change has got to happen.
In Virginia Beach, Allie Weatherton.
Awesome.
We haven't gotten cut up. There he is.
I don't know if you saw that, Pastor. Did you see that?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I had a call.
No, it's okay. It's fine. I just wanted to make sure that you was able to see that. So basically,
yes,
everybody.
Yeah, I did see it. I did see it. Yeah.
So basically, everybody. We didn't show you the actual video that his wife put up. We gave you a good clump of the whole thing, but basically, officers. When I say didn't disrespect, they didn't abuse him verbally or disrespect him in front of his family. They disrespected him in front of his family because they cuffed him. So wrongfully picked out. Now we're going to talk about they apologize, right? Now, Kevin and I, let me ask you a question, Kevin. From a law enforcement standpoint, if they felt he was wrong, could they have cuffed him?
Yeah. If they thought he was the suspect, could they have cuffed him? Sure. And there's plenty of reasons to cuff somebody you think is a suspect of a crime, right? It's for their safety, your safety, and everybody else's. And we'll show videos. We're going to show video afterwards of a thing going awry, where where cop safety disappears quickly.
Yeah, and for everybody out there, I think there's a fine line. I think people of color, and I can speak from a person of color, and Pastor, you can speak from a person of color on this aspect too, and Kevin, you can speak from
me.
You can't. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Because the bottom line is you can't speak from a person of color, but you always say you walk a central line. So I think maybe you and I there was a time. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin. There was a time when the person would never give another man a ticket, and when his family in the car. You know what I'm saying? Long as it was some real reckless situation. You know what I'm saying? Because we always saw how a child would look up to his father, and we never wanted to minimize or disgrace his father in front of his child's eye. And that's old school. That's even before Kevin and I. You understand what I'm saying? Because we was taught that. You know what I'm saying? With that being said, right now you have a situation where Sergeant felt that he committed a crime. He was doing his job. He wasn't disrespectful to the man. Could he have asked him to move away from the table? Can I talk to you privately? Whisper, tell him on the side. See, I think this, and Kevin, this is what I want you to say from a pastoral and a black man perspective. And then Kevin Branzetti, you can comment from a law enforcement standpoint, and I'll play devil's advocate from that aspect. The bottom line is, Pastor, a lot of times our people of color feel like we're not allotted the same kind of longitude and latitude of white people. And a white person may not have been cuffed in front of his family. They would have asked him to step away from the table and walked with him, maybe side by side. Now, like I said, everybody from a law enforcement standpoint, they weren't wrong. Was the sergeant disrespectful? In lieu of him not raising his voice, handling it, keeping it at a monotone level, he was perfectly good. We can call tomatoes on why he put him in cuffs in front of his family. So go ahead, Pastor. Give me some insight from your standpoint. If that was a situation that you witnessed or would have been a victim of, how would you felt that was handled?
I would be devastated. Number one, it happened in front of my family. At the same time, I do understand there are police officers that have a job to do, and they follow, as long as they're following policy and procedure. I would appreciate if I'm going to try to put myself in this man's position, I would respect even more so if the officer comes to me and says, "Sir, like you said, Bill, come with me, sir. I just want to talk to you for a second," and say, "Well, you fit a particular profile. We're looking for this person. You fit this particular profile," and then I can begin to obviously plead my case. But to be handcuffed in front of your family, yes, it's embarrassing. And this is the human side of policing as well, where you may be following every jot and tittle. You may be following policies and procedure. But where is the human aspect of it, where now as a police officer, so now I'm going to be a cop, and I see this man sitting down with his wife and his children, and I'm like, okay, we have to approach this a little bit differently. Did that come into play? Obviously it didn't, because he was handcuffed. Could that have been done? It would have been nice. "Sir, come with me a second. Just want to have a word with you," versus handcuffing him. And they did apologize. And from what I understand, there's more than one apology there. So I commend the officers for acknowledging their error and apologizing for it. But I also want to talk about something else. There is such a thing called sick and tired. And those within communities of color, specifically the Black community, are not so much angry at this one incident, but numerous incidents previous to it. It's the treatment. That is what we're talking about here. It is the history of treatment. It's not a few isolated incidents, but a history of behavior in treatment. That is what people, Black people, are upset about. So that is why we protest, and whether it's George Floyd or Breonna Taylor. This is what we're talking about. It is the history of behavior from law enforcement and treatment. And yes, again, they apologize. I acknowledge that. And there have been many other apologies. Look, I'm sorry we made a mistake. We're human. I get it. I get it. But when you're dealing with a people who have gone through a history of brutality and poor treatment at the hands of law enforcement, this is the kind of language you're going to get. See, this is why we don't trust cops. We can't even sit down in a mall and have a meal without being harassed or arrested. Well, we're sorry. We're profiling the guy. You fit the description. We were wrong. We're sorry. I get it. But this has been going on for too long, and we're tired of it.
Yeah. I mean, you're perfectly clear. Also too, there's a saying, I'm sure, it's not just in the Black community, but sorry don't, it might be around the world, but I'm sure everybody's heard it. Sorry don't make it right. You know what I'm saying? I think people are just tired of being tired. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, not this one incident, because I personally feel that even though the officer, and if I can't even say he did anything wrong, he handled it the best way he could have. Maybe I may have asked him to step away from the table and said, "Let me just talk to you for a second." I would have whispered in his ear. I may have touched him. I may have touched him. And when I say touched him, I'm saying I may have held on to him and said, "Listen," because if I think he's going to flee, that's a whole problem. And I just want to read something that James, a prior law enforcement officer, said. He said, for safety's sake, he should have been cuffed, but to take a subject out of public view and explain to family that they are a subject of a preliminary investigation. He said he's a suspect in public. View is not good safety protocol for other officers involved. Absolutely. And he agreed with you. He said, absolutely, Pastor. He said, Sharon Saunders says, police officers exercise humanity when the person being handcuffed is not Black. Crystal agrees with us exactly. She said, for us, the margin of error is very thin. So I get it. So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna play my situation, and I'm gonna say hypothetically, it was a credit card fraud, still a felony, but so I'm gonna say I'm working with Kevin on this. Usually, a lot of times, some officers, due to the fact that they worked with each other for so long, they know how each other work. But say Kevin and I haven't worked that long together, and say I'm just going to take the senior officer aspect on this, Kevin, and then you can take it on your point, right? I might say, Kev, okay, he's with his wife, his kid, whatever. Let's ask him to come away from the table, right? And then you get his back, I got his front, whatever, and we're going to explain to him, listen, we're going to walk you outside, or we're going to walk you over here to this corner. Even if for Kevin's aspect, Kevin might say, well, I still want him cuffed. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, all right, because as a partner, you have to work in unison with each other. If partners can't work together, then it's a recipe for disaster. With that being said, I would have tried to get him somewhere and then maybe cuff him and take him outside, or put him in a position where I would have hoped he wouldn't have ran. You understand what I'm saying? But like I said, cuffing him alleviates a lot of that. So that sergeant alleviated that run. You know what I'm saying? He alleviated all that reaching for this or reaching for that, because you know what's so funny? Some people have the ideology that, I don't trust anybody. It's cops against the world. Like his wife could be, holding a gun too. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. We don't know. But the bottom line is, like you said, can a criminal be sitting there with his child? Absolutely. But like you said.
Hey, Bill, I want to add to that too, if you don't mind. Sure. As we're talking to the man, and me and my partner, we're going, and you know, I have his front, you got his back, but at the same time, you just said it too, keeping an eye on the wife, because you don't know if they're in on it. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what arrangement was made. We don't want to falsely accuse anybody, but at the same time, you got to keep your eye on her, because she could be holding a gun. So that's true.
Yeah, I mean, and just like Kevin and I had shown a video, like maybe a couple of weeks ago, Kevin, that the officer was trying so hard, probably trying to not stereotype this black man, that the dude tried to grab his gun. You know what I'm saying? Remember we played that. So we're in situations now where I get it with officers want to be safe and they're supposed to be safe, and I get it where there's a room of leniency and stuff like that. Kevin, let's play the video where we are showing now, if you can, of what we talk about, where sometimes even in a comfort zone or in a secure zone, it still can go awry for an officer.
Yeah. Well, let me just give it a little bit, because I went on TMZ and actually I found the longer video, but I'm not. If we have time, I'll show it later. But also on the TMZ, it gives a little more information. It's VBPD got a call of a black man with dreads wearing all black, using stolen credit cards, who was accompanied by a child wearing red, which this guy was. Which is rare, but it said it in the complaint. What they were looking for was the guy with the child. And if I watch the end of the video, that the kid he's with, the 13-year-old's wearing red.
What you watched at the other end of the video, correct me if I'm wrong, when they showed the other video that I showed you, right down the corridor or the outside of the thing, they arrested another man with dreads, and he had a 13-year-old child. This man's child didn't have red. I think his child, I don't think both children didn't have red. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm going to go with Bill. And look, we can look at this further, but it did say he was with the child, which surprised me. Going up to a guy with a family in front of him, that's a tough one. It really is a tough call.
Absolutely.
It's just not. It's not pretty. It depends.
You're totally right.
Who you with, right, Bill? Right. If it's me and you, it depends upon the cop's skill. Depends upon how many cops, right? I'm comfortable walking with somebody uncuffed, depending upon the scenario I'm in.
Yes.
If I'm by myself, no, ain't happening. He's getting cuffed while he's sitting, because that gives me the advantage. I'm over him.
Yes.
If he's standing up, am I afraid of, in that scenario, that he's going to assault me? No, I'm more afraid if he's going to take off. And you're in a crowded mall with little kids and old people and everything in between. It's tough. I
totally agree. And let me just say this to the listening audience. These are all decisions, unless you have time to plot your strategy, or split-second decisions. So, what Kevin is saying is not wrong. Like he just said, the fact that, I'm more fear of him taking flight, and now this is becoming chaotic with everybody surrounded and watching, and now we're fighting because not that officers are punks, but not every officer has some kind of formal training. Not every criminal has formal training either. Exactly. But but the bottom line is, officers don't go to work, and I say this with half-heartedness, officers ain't going to work to be scrapping, even though we know it can happen that day. But the whole premise of an officer's thing is like, we got a radio, we got backup. You know what I'm saying? And that's why you always call for backup, and that's why you see multiple officers sometime in a situation, because we want to de-escalate the criminal mind, even though the person may not be the criminal. We just want to de-escalate you and make you sure. Now, have officers abused their powers? Absolutely, unequivocally. I'm sitting here to tell you that. Like I said, I've been pulled over myself, and I've been surrounded by 3 or 4 officers. And I told a guy I'm an officer, and I still got tossed. And I'd be like, yo, are you kidding me? Like, get off me. You know what I'm saying? But
yes,
a scared mind and a scared heart, a heart that pumps Kool-Aid, or tunnel vision when they see a certain ethnicity. You understand what I'm saying? And I've had, like I said, I've had a conversation with a lieutenant doing a traffic stop, like a checkpoint, not a traffic stop, checkpoint. And the officer asked me where I was going. He didn't know what my mindset was, and I told him none of his business. And he said, none of my business. And I said, yeah. And he told me to pull over. And then the lieutenant said, well, why are you pulling him over? He said, I asked him where he was going, and he told me none of his business. And the lieutenant came over to the car, and I attend myself. So the lieutenant was like basically like, yo, you could have just told him, like where you was going, or you was on a job. I said, yo, Lou. I said, first and foremost, he didn't ask me if I was on a job. I said, he just asked me how I was doing it, where I was going. I said, he don't know if my mother just passed away. You understand what I'm saying? So I in my mind, I don't have time for to play games. Like, I'm in a different mindset. Yeah, because I was law enforcement, I was able to leave. But John Q. Public would have got a ticket. You understand what I'm saying? I know that for a fact. And the sad thing about that is that we're not allowed the leave me alone officer, get out my face officer. People of color are not. And that's facts. A white person might have been able to say that. Now, the bottom line is, after the lieutenant and I had a conversation about why do black people are and this is a true conversation me and the lieutenant had. He said, well, why do black officers give white officers a hard time? I said, no. I said, black officers can't give white officers a hard time when black officers didn't pull themselves over. You understand what I'm saying? So the bottom line is how we're being talked to. And let me tell you something. I've been on the highway, pulled over, turnpike, speeding, wrong. Officer, state trooper, highway patrol, whomever. Hey, how you doing? Bop, 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 bop. Okay. Where you going? What? When you ask me where I'm going, you're opening up an investigation. Otherwise than that, it's have a nice night. You understand what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say, okay, I'm gonna let you I'm gonna let you answer your question, but I just want to say to anybody that's listening, once you ask an officer of color where he's going and things of that magnitude, you're opening up an investigation. And now the bottom line is, what are you looking for? Go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead, Pastor Kevin. Pastor Kevin.
Not to what we say, we call it Monday morning quarterbacking. I don't like doing that, but I just want to go back to that scenario. Two police officers. You see a man sitting with his family, and you know what the description is. Would you, at that point, as far as policy and procedure, radio back to get a confirmation of the profile, just to make sure that you're approaching the right person? Can you do that? Does that make sense?
I'm gonna say something, and I'm gonna let Kev take it. The bottom line is, they said dreads. So the bottom line is, and also Kev said they said something about a child, a 13-year-old child. So go ahead, Kev.
Yeah, and there's plenty of times we've asked for the description again, and there were times, and I learned this as a young cop. I saw other cops do it when we get a call for a man on a gun, 112th and St. Nick, and we go there, stop somebody, frisk him, throw him against the wall, whatever, and then the cop would apologize to him and say, Central, to the dispatcher, can you repeat the description and let the person hear it? That this was description. It was you. I didn't just jump out of my car and do it. So I've done callbacks to reaffirm what was there. I don't know how these cops work. A lot of cops don't even need to do it anymore. It comes up on their phone, right? Like the whole description thing, the event comes up on their phone. They have it. They're reading it. So it's a much simpler, where 25 years ago you had to memorize everything, and yes, you could get a description wrong. It's a touchy one, but it's a good conversation, right? Like, yes. This is a good conversation. It's a good conversation. This is a good video to show in an academy. I'm sure if we spent enough time, I could find you videos where this goes wrong and the person takes off because they didn't cuff them. Right?
No,
like,
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, they exist.
Absolutely.
And it's a tough call. Part of that is, again, Bill and I have talked about, one of the things that we need to have better is our cops aren't trained fighters, right? We're not gun professionals, and we're not fighting professionals. We're professional police officers, but we don't teach them how to fight. So is Bill more confident walking that guy out because Bill's got better hand skills? Yeah. So that's a different thing. So the cop who doesn't have hand skills you're at an immediate disadvantage in life. So it's just safer to have them cuffed. And when you have them cuffed, it's well, except for the next video where we're going to show where they have them cuffed and it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
But, these are the things. There's a couple of people who I think have said things about cops are thin-skinned nowadays. And that may be true. But I'll tell you one of the reasons.
I just asked Alicia to come in. Alicia's a former police officer too. And I just reached out. Alicia, if you're listening, you and Mike, her and her husband, they're both law enforcement. They're retired and they're both safe and sound. I asked them that they want to come in because the bottom line is, as a female officer, I would love to get her take on that too. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. We're here every Wednesday. And today we have our super co-host, Pastor Kevin Graves in the building. He is family. He is Real Talk Chronicles family. I met him from Cornelius, but I adopted him and I got him. And the bottom line is, we'll say before the end of the night, we have some good things coming up in January. Next week, we're going to take the week off just so we can decompress and unwind and meditate and just find out where we are getting out of this year and going forward and trying to just be better people for yourselves, for your family. We have COVID, we have, Republicans versus Democrats. We still have law enforcement. Like, the streets in New York are still lawless. They used to try to say that the streets in Democratic areas were the worst, and that's not true. We found that out not to be. Also in Republican cities and states that they have problems. So we need to talk about how we can try to, before this Christmas holiday, we wanted to just give you some insight on some certain things that, from a law enforcement standpoint, what can we do? How can we make it better? We have the pastor in the building, just to give us some spiritual guidance too, because the bottom line is, him and I talked earlier today, and I asked him, and we're going to talk about this too, like, do we feel like religion is missing in a family? Like, that's a big topic too. Like, not just because, I hate to say about the millennials and the generation after the millennials, but I think even our generation, even if they were lawless, they still had respect and they had manners. I don't know where this is in this new generation, and it's sad to me. It's disgusting. I don't know what to say. I just want to read some comments before Kevin and I go to the next video. Sharon said, based on the description, we are going to cuff everyone who meets a very general description. What's the protocol? Kevin, you want to answer that question?
That's a good question. I was going to read that. Yes.
Right.
So, look, if the description was a male black in a white T-shirt, and there's 8 people fitting that description in the wall, you better not. Right? Like, that's not an acceptable thing. I don't know the full description. For me to cuff you, it's got to be there is nothing else there and nobody else there who could have been it. It is really what my level is, right? Like, and that could be from the description, the items. Maybe you have some of the items from this, like the bag from the same store where the theft just took place. You have bags from it. There's got to be something to distinguish you from the crowd. That's it. So the weaker the description, the lesser the level we can also use. So if it was just a male black with dreads and there's 7 people who fit that description kind of in the general area, I could walk up to one and talk to him, but cuff him? No. I could walk up to one guy and say, how you doing, sir? What's going on? Where you been today? How's it going? And kind of get a general feel. There's conversations. But for me to put cuffs on you, I got to have something, a pretty solid thing. So that's something that and it looks like from this department they're going to check into, right? Like, I honestly feel like this department, the chief, the cop, they're sincere. This is not months later we're finding out about it and then they got to say, oh yeah, we did that last year and we're sorry now that this was an apology on scene. There may be something they have to learn. There may be something in that protocol that they did wrong, or they may be 100% right. And sometimes our job isn't pretty. Have I ever cuffed the wrong person? Yes. Yes. Do I remember those? I can't even. I know I have, and I couldn't even remember any of those incidents. Do I have a cuff somebody scene and then had to uncuff them? Yeah, I've had to.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Too many
Yeah.
times.
Please go.
Unfortunately, throughout our history, Black people have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. And you know the movie with Denzel Washington, Hurricane, Reuben Hurricane Carter?
Absolutely. True story.
And this is what we're talking about. Too many times in our history, since we've been here, since we stepped foot on American soil, we've been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, that doesn't mean that Blacks don't commit crimes. Yes, we do. But too many times we have been the victim of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, sometimes to our own fault, we're involved in things we should not be involved in. Completely understand that. But too many times, and this is not one of those cases, because there was an error made and it was rectified by apologizing to this man and saying, look, we are sorry for what we did. We were wrong. I respect that. What people are, again, upset about is too many times we're in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'll stop there.
No, but you know what's so funny? I'm glad that you said that, and what you're saying has a lot of validity, because this is why a lot of people are upset and they're tired and they're mad, because how come me? Like I've always told people, even from an African-American standpoint, stop, question, or frisk. I think it was a vital tool. I think it's a necessary tool. But the thing is, I felt that officers abused it when they were stopping you and they were stopping me when you had.
Oh, not you, Pastor. They were wrong. You were carrying a gun.
Well, they didn't know, and they were stopping Pastor Graves and asking him where's he coming from and where's he going and stuff like that, giving him the hard business, and they want to toss him and search him. And then the bottom line is they want to stop the guys just up the block on the corner. Coming to the show right now, I got my sister, my Latin power sister in the building. Her and her husband. That's my dude, Mike. She's a good sister. She's a former NYPD officer, and she can give her perspective from a law enforcement standpoint, from a woman of color, because she, as a woman of color, she doesn't look at herself as a woman that is not of African descent. She looks at herself as a woman of color. Her husband looks at himself as a man of color, and they understand the law enforcement standpoint. I see her getting adjusted. I see you. Get yourself. Come on, sister girl. Stop playing with me. Unmute yourself. How are you? Happy holidays.
Good. How's everyone?
I'm good. How are you doing? Everybody, I have my sister Alicia in the building. She can just, Alicia, please give them some insight into.
So I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
That's all right. When you get a chance, give them some insight into your professional background and what you were doing. Also, can you hear me? All right. She's going to get herself adjusted. Kevin.
She's muted.
Oh yeah, she's muted. She'll come back. But the different Kevins, Pastor Kevin and Kevin.
I got something to say.
No, go ahead. Please.
It goes into what, Pastor, what you've just been saying, and back to our training, right? Like, look, I wish I had this 27 years ago. What we're doing today, and these discussions, right? Did not have them. Cops need to be taught of how different communities see policing and history of policing. And our history of policing is not pretty. And there are some very ugly, things. And we have to look in that closet. We have to say that happened. And and now we represent that agency that at one time did this. And that one time might have been a little while ago or a long, long time ago, but it was there. And I wasn't trained in that. I wasn't taught to think that, that direction. And I think it's an important thing to understand, because it builds into that thicker skin of, when somebody says something to me and I have to be like, all right, I get it. I get where he's coming from. he's got a different view of what Kevin Branzetti grew up with, seeing cops in Queens. And then we should be teaching that the history of police injustices should be taught in academies.
I did get some training on the different corruption within the NYPD as a part of my civilian training. I did receive that. We went as far back as what's his name? These two detectives who were hired enforcers for the mob, Ippolito and Caracappa, and how they worked for the Italian mafia many years ago. I believe both are deceased. So we get into Officer Serpico, and he touched on the different, and of course, we touched on the Mullen Commission, the Knapp commissions, and the reason why these commissions are in place. I think every civilian should know this, and police officer. This is the history of our department. I don't like saying this, but when we think of policing, the police and my training are known as a paramilitary organization. Now that's a difficult, let's say, wow, paramilitary organization. Well, that's the word that you ever really hardly hear it, but that is what is known. The police are known for being a paramilitary organization. We don't like to see ourselves that way or conduct ourselves that way, but this is what people are feeling in some communities, that the police are an occupying force. And that's what we need to get away from, and that's what we're attempting to do through community involvement, NCOs, YCOs, precinct community councils, to bring a sense of relationship between law enforcement and community. Bill, you're muted.
What's up, everybody? Again, I'm your host, Bill Foster. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I got my co-host, Kevin Branzetti, with me in the building. I got my co-host, Pastor Kevin Graves, in the building. And I'm bringing in family that they were part of Real Talk Chronicles, because once you're part of Real Talk Chronicles, you are always Real Talk Chronicles, and they're always family, and they're always welcome back. And I appreciate them listening and coming in. I have the dynamic duo. I got my brother and sister in the building. I got Alicia and Mike. And please come in and say hi, everybody. You got to unmute yourself, Alicia. What's up, you two?
Can you hear me, Bill?
I got you.
You're coming up. I can hear everyone else, but whenever you speak, it's breaking up. It's very choppy. So I thought it was on my end, but I can hear the other two just fine.
All right. Just like my sister, you're going to blame me for it, right? What's up, Mike? How are you, brother?
All right, man. How's everything?
Oh, man. First, let me just wish you two happy holidays. I'm assuming you guys have been, I wish you all the best in the new year, and happy holidays to both of you and your family. Right now, on the cusp of New Year or Christmas Eve, we were just trying to find out how we can quell and bring together this world we live in. New York is still lawless. We can talk about the Democrats and the Republicans, how the Republicans want to blame the Democrats for having the lawless cities, even though we know Republicans have cities just as bad. But we want to talk about certain situations on reform, not so much defunding, because I don't think any of us feel like we want to defund the police department.
Yeah, that's a horrible slogan.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think we all disagree with that. And I'm gonna let you two chime in on that. But I don't know if you saw the video that we just showed. Okay. So basically what it was about how to handle a situation. And I want
This
Alicia.
is the credit card situation?
Yeah, the one. Did you just see that one?
I did not.
I'm gonna. You know what? It's okay. But I'm gonna send it to you, and so you and Mike, we could talk about it, and we could come back in the future and talk about it. But the bottom line is, let me ask you two, from a law enforcement standpoint, you can both give your credentials on law enforcement before Kevin and I go into this next video. Give us your history on your credentials on law enforcement, and tell me how you two de-escalated situations. And I'll give you each a scenario before Kevin and I go into another thing. Go ahead, Alicia, you first.
Well, I think we both. joined NYPD as a police cadet in like 90, 91, and went into the academy in 94. So I didn't stay the full 20 years. Mike did. I actually vested out after 9/11 because, you know, my kids were just losing their mind thinking about both parents going to work after that. So one of us decided to leave, and that was me. But the 10 years that I was there was a big push on, if you recall, courtesy, professionalism, and respect.
Absolutely.
And I firmly believe that the onus is on the police officer to maintain control of a situation. Obviously, the police officer is the one who has the ability to take a life at any given time, and that's a lot of power to yield around. So the police officer has to maintain control, and it starts with not allowing yourself, as we used to say back then, being hooked, right, or triggered.
Yes.
If something as simple as someone is saying none of your business is triggering you, or someone with a video camera, you know, wanting to, you know, document whatever whatever's going on, then perhaps that's not the right line of work for you. I think many times, more times than not, if you approach someone with respect, you will usually get it back. If the person doesn't give you respect back, and, you know, it's just verbal, I still think the onus is on the police officer to maintain control of the situation and not escalate it to the level where someone now can get hurt, whether it's the victim or...
Hold on, Alicia. I'm going to ask Mike. Now, Mike, I know you, like me, you branched off and went into different units that you didn't have to interact in that aspect.
Right.
But I'm going to ask you, how did you de-escalate situations? Because you, being of mixed race, people can view you just like, you know,
either way.
Whomever. They don't know how to judge you.
Right.
But then I'm going to come back to you, Alicia, and ask you, as a female, how did you handle and de-escalate situations? So go ahead, Mike, give me some insight, and then go back to you, Alicia. Go ahead.
You know, I'm a firm believer, and I always say it, I still say it, you got to give respect to get respect. I always talk to somebody as a human, as, you know, as my equal. Even though if I'm wearing that blue uniform, you're still my equal. And I feel that if I'm giving you the respect, that de-escalates everything. If I come into somebody's house and say, and I've been with people who've done it, I'm in charge now. That's not the way to walk into somebody's house, because we're going to have a problem. I worked with guys where we had a guy in a hotel that was having an argument with the management. My partner I was working with that night said something, and this guy was humongous. And he said something, and the guy looked at us, and I go, uh-oh. And I went over to start talking to him. He goes, I'll deal with you, but keep him away from me.
Yeah,
and
wow.
It was just more of, you know, just if we're just sitting here talking, I'm not looking for a fight. I'm not looking to do anything to harm anybody or for me to get hurt. So my beliefs is just, I give respect and I get respect.
And you can merely just explain why you're stopping the person, you know, what led you to that person, and, you know, whether it was a description that you received, you know, over the radio or something you just came upon. But I think that in itself puts the person, even though with the atmosphere being what it is so, you know, everything is so politicized that people are edgy no matter what and are very confrontational with the police.
I went to pick up my daughter one time up in the 4-1. The cops surrounded me because the lady pointed me out, saying that I violated an order of protection. So, you know, right away, you know, I'm sitting there going, I'm here to pick up my daughter, trying to talk to the guys. And they were, you know, a little aggressive. I ID'd myself. Then it was like, oh, my God. And you're a cop. So it went through the whole gambit where they were about to bring me to the command. And then finally they were like, oh, wait, that's the wrong guy. You know, so, you know, I felt like I was trying to respect them. But obviously I'm not in uniform and they're in uniform. I'm trying to respect them. But they came out very aggressive.
Exactly.
And once you ID'd yourself, it got even worse for me. And as being an undercover, like you said, I got to see both ends of how things really worked also. Because when I was an undercover, they treated me a certain way because I couldn't ID myself.
Absolutely.
And, but I also looked at myself being treated a little bit different than other people also, because
Absolutely.
they couldn't make me out, and when I was dealing with the mob, they thought I was an Italian guy. And when I was dealing with other people, they were like, oh, he could be Puerto Rican, but they weren't sure, and I know I was always dealt.
Well, Mike, it's so funny. You being a man of color. I mean, and I say color because so different backgrounds. You were blessed that you can walk in any different part of town or place and say, "I am you." You know what I'm saying?
And
like that's what I love about you. Besides you being who you are, you honestly, from a Caucasian standpoint, from a Latin standpoint, or man of color standpoint, from a Latin, you know what I'm saying? Like, and just being a down to earth dude. Like I love and respect how you swag, man, because the bottom line is you're like, yo, judge me for me, not for my skin. You understand what I'm saying? But we all understand our skin sometimes can dictate how things
and we understand that our skin color gives us a certain level of privilege.
Absolutely.
He's lighter than I am, but I'm lighter than someone else. And,
yes.
So there is a certain level of privilege that comes with that, that dictates how someone may treat you and interact with you. But when you're a police officer and a police officer of color who, like me, I'm very outspoken, and I'm in a precinct where I hear regularly derogatory and racially biased statements, and this is in a safe space within the confines of the precinct about people outside of the precinct. It's hurtful, and it just gives you a good idea of what the mindset is of these police officers going out into the general public and how they're going to deal with them. If they are talking about it so freely in a precinct, the fact that for someone to think that they don't carry those biases and those beliefs about a certain group when they go out on patrol, it's silly, it's ridiculous, and we do see it, and it does impact how the community views us and the relationship that the police department, police officers and the general public have. It doesn't create an atmosphere where it's going to build trust.
Absolutely.
And that's something that needs to change, that we need to stop condoning that kind of language in a precinct.
Absolutely. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. My lovely panel today on the eve of Christmas Eve. We are just trying to find a way to find some harmony. I mean, there's still shooting all over the world, and people are just doing all kind of crazy stuff. And really, we're just trying to find a way that officers can be better protected and safe without taking money away from them to not where they can not utilize their skill set, but also to find out reasons where our people of color and just people in general can be better people. You know what I'm saying? Pastor Graves,
yes.
And then Kevin, I'll let you piggyback before we go into our film. Pastor, what you just heard Alicia and her husband Mike talk about what they've heard, what they've experienced from people being a light-skinned people of color. And Kev, I want you to also chime in on this later after Pastor Graves. But sometimes the problem is not outside as much as it is inside.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? So you can elaborate on that, and then Kev, give your take on it before we go to the next video.
Yeah,
go ahead, Pastor.
That's exactly where I was going to go. Sometimes the war is from within.
Right.
And when we look at the different groups, we have African Americans, we have Hispanics, and we live together. I live in the Bronx. Our borough is predominantly Hispanic. We also have African Americans, and there's also other groups as well. And one issue within our community, and I've had this discussion with African Americans as well as my Latino and Latina brothers and sisters, is why is it that we have this argument over color? Because, and I've even discussed this with, I've gone into the history of how Puerto Rico came about and the islands, Hispaniola, so on and so forth. And I say, wait a minute, we are of African ancestry. Even though we are of different complexions and our hair may be straighter than others, when we get into the root of who we are, particularly in Puerto Rico, African American, European, and indigenous. But yet we are divided and we begin to argue amongst one another. And we say, oh, you're from the Dominican Republic, you're black, you're Puerto Rican, you're white. Now, stop the foolishness. Study your history, people. Pedro Albizu Campos, okay, and you can do your research on him. He was of African ancestry. And if we get into understanding the beauty of who we are, even as African Americans, we are a melting pot because of the slave trade all over the globe. So weakness and divide amongst one another. And oh, you're light, so therefore you are white, and I'm black, and it's to stop. We are one people.
There's no pure race.
And we are having this argument. Thank you. Yes, I saw someone with a shirt that said 100% Puerto Rican. I was like, okay, don't think so. Study your history. But the point here is that we have this argument within the African American community just the same. Lighter complexion versus darker complexion. You're ugly. You're attractive.
Hair.
And this is the monster that we have created in our society, and it must stop. So it's not, and this is the poison that has seeped into our community through racism, that lighter is better and darker is not good. And you don't want to be dark because, or be considered black, because there's a lot of disadvantage with being considered black, and that has to stop. That's foolishness. And that's, absolutely, I would say that's the poison that is seeping within our own community. I'll stop there.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, I'm so white, I fall off the scale. So I'm the complete opposite. I think I almost come around to the other side.
But I seen you catch a beat. I seen you catch a beat, so you got some soul.
No.
I know. I was just trying to
I'm
give you some
legitimately like, I can't play ball. I can't shoot. Can't play ball, and I can't dance. I am like the stereotypical, It's bad, but whatever.
It's all love.
We are.
It's all love.
The comments of hearing stuff inside precincts, and yeah, if I ever heard bad stuff inside of precincts, of course. We don't do a good job of, somebody put in the comments, and we talked a little bit about it, of weeding people out. The psychological, I don't think the psychological weeds out that many. I'm sure it takes a percentage. I remember getting on the job. When you went to see the shrink, you weren't allowed to tell them you ever drank or you ever had a fight. So they taught me from day one to lie, right? Like, I never drank and I never had a fight. Like I don't know what they were looking for, but if you mentioned that you did either, that was a disqualification, which was a strange way to do it. Our academies are weak.
Let me be transparent with you, and I'm gonna let you finish. They failed me because of that.
There you go.
And I'm telling you, that's why I am where I'm at today, and I fight. You understand what I'm saying? Because if I didn't fight, I would have just taken that a disqualification and ran with it. So I'm saying all that to say, for anybody who wants to know why I am who I am and why I'm the way I am to this day, is because when you tell the truth, it comes back and kicks you in your derriere. And the bottom line is, you know what I'm saying? If I would have been on some real lie, like you said, Kevin, lie stuff, I'd have been like, oh, okay. Because let me tell you something. That chick was asking me, and no disrespect, Alicia, she was like, oh, you did this, and so you only tried that, and you sure you didn't do more than this? And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? You asked me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You asked me, you piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't volunteer.
Tell us how you really feel, Bill.
Yeah, so that's why.
It sounds like it's been down deep for a long time, that one. You
Oh,
really need to let that
but
out.
let me tell you something.
But you're absolutely right. The job, both of you are right. The job indoctrinates you into lying at all levels, because that's how we get to the point where if you see an officer, a fellow officer, your brother, your sister doing something wrong, who wants to be that person that tells? Because the expectation is that you lie. It's an unwritten rule, but it's there nonetheless.
Yeah, but I was getting into our academy has to be different. It's got to be more boot campish. You need drill sergeants who demean you, and you need drill sergeants of different races and sexes doing it to you, so you can see people's reaction. I would much rather find out that Bill Foster couldn't handle it in the academy than 3 years of him being on the street and you find out Bill Foster can't handle it, kind of thing, right? Like, but we don't do that in the academy anymore because we've gotten this passive, there was, I remember when I was in, people sued the academy because they got treated meanly. We're in the era of cameras everywhere. Put cameras in the classrooms, put cameras on, in the gyms, and get nasty again. And let's see who can handle it. A real racist guy, a real racist white guy could not have a black instructor screaming at him day in and day out. Eventually, I'm going to go, like it's going to.
No, and you are so right.
And that's what happened in boot camp too. In real boot camp.
And then you do this. Bye-bye.
You break.
Yeah, you go bye-bye.
And you know what's so funny? Let me tell you something. If anything I could do with hopefully the incoming mayor, Eric Adams, I will, if I have anything, if he reaches out to me, Eric, if you're listening right now, listen, brother, please, man, have me in one of the meetings when we talk about change and reform. I can bring any of these individuals with me. I have no problems with that. But the bottom line is we need what Kevin just said. Let me be a black instructor getting up in a white officer's face or a Latin officer's face or another black officer's face, because the bottom line is if you can't handle the spit and the shit, you know what I'm saying? What are you doing? Oh, I don't play this shit. Get out my face. I'll fess you up. Yeah, you know what? You're out of here. You know what I'm saying?
And that's in a controlled environment. Imagine, at the heat of the moment.
Absolutely, Mike. Absolutely. So you know what's so funny? I'm going to shift it for a minute. Alicia, I sent you the video for you to Mike to see what I was talking about earlier. But also, too, Kevin and I, we want to tell everybody out there, we understand how you feel. Everybody here understands how you feel, people of color. But you got to understand, too, from a law enforcement standpoint, why people take precautions. Kevin, you ready to run that video?
All right.
Got you. Let's go. All right.
So here's a transport. Oh, it would happen real quick. So we're transporting a prisoner. This guy is transporting a prisoner. He is cuffed. He was arrested for having a gun. He opens the back door.
Pause it. Let me see. Do I pause it? And then we'll go back to it. Pause.
Three shots fired instantly as he opens the back door.
So everybody out there listening, what we're trying to say is that even though a lot of times you may view certain situations as racist and disrespectful, these are some of the reasons why an officer can always say, this is why I act the way I act. Not that it's right, it's wrong. It's a gut feeling. Every officer here can tell you they have to go on their certain gut. Woman's intuition, Mike's intuition, Kevin's intuition, Bill's intuition. You know what I'm saying? Even Pastor Graves as a man, walking down the street, if he see two guys walking down the street, walking towards him and he doesn't feel something, if his intuition says, oh, get your behind and cross the street, go across the street, and he crosses the street and they cross the street with him, bingo, there's a problem here. You understand what I'm saying? So, Kev,
hey, Bill,
all right, running from the beginning. Go ahead.
Yeah, how does someone develop that intuition? Does that come with experience? Does it come through training? Is there a psychology 101 course that's given in the police academy? How does one get that feel to say, this person's a threat?
I'm gonna say this for first and foremost. I think any inner city child, real inner city child, you get it innate. You know what I'm saying? Your parents have taught you, listen, don't be a fool. Don't do this. Don't let anybody take this. You know, it shows you how to not to want to be a punk or feel like you can't interact with somebody. The bottom line is anybody here does not want to get into an altercation. Yeah, I've had formal training in fighting for 30 some years. I teach it. But the bottom line is I still do not want to put my hands on anybody. Have I? Absolutely. Kev, we're going to have to go back to that so we can see it again from the beginning in slow motion and set it down. I just want to answer this question. So, Kev, when you let me know when you want to run it again. But what I'm saying is that Mike is an inner city child. Alicia's an inner city child. Kevin's an inner city child. So with that being said, certain things are innate. Like if you're from, the city, you pick things up. Now, I mean, unless you've just been coddled where you've never been outside without your mommy until you're 27 years old, then I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? But if you've had to go to school by yourself, if you've had to deal with people in school, you wearing hush puppies and everybody wearing British Walkers, or you wearing certain things, you wearing Skips and everybody wearing name brand shoes, oh, get off me, okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, after a while, you ain't taking that shit. You know what I'm saying, Pastor? So I'm just saying you learn it. Now, have I witnessed, and Mike and Alicia and Kevin can comment on this, have I witnessed a white officer, even a black or a Latin officer that's never been interacted with the hood, as we're going to say, as a course of time grow to be a good officer because he's learned on the job? Yes. Did it happen 5 years, 3 years, 7 years, 15 years? Let me tell you something, and I'm sure they can all contest to this. I've seen some officers sit here and tell some war stories, but they weren't telling their war stories. They were telling mine or Kevin's or Alicia's or Mike's. You understand what I'm saying? And you'd be like, oh, you've been there, huh? I've seen them in the academy. You weren't that dude chasing the guy down the street with the gun. You was the dude that came later and then helped him process the arrest. You know what I'm saying? Like, you was like, yo, and when I say process the arrest, you was the one that was typed it in for him. So we need to understand how certain officers have, fluffed their careers. You understand what I'm saying? And I always say this, and anybody that knows me, Alicia, Mike, Kevin, even you, Pastor, I always say a story ain't true unless somebody can co-sign it. I can bring a plethora of officers on here and tell you about Bill Forster. I don't have to talk about me. I let somebody else do it. I'm sure Alicia and Mike can do the same thing, Kevin. Alicia and I, we know. Alicia, you had a discrepancy, right, on my thing with somebody that you called out. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's sometimes when we call you out on who you are, people don't like, because people paint the picture. You understand what I'm saying? And the picture don't have to be painted. If I want to talk about Mike, I'm gonna tell Mike about Mike. Mike don't have to say anything about Mike. I can talk about Kevin. Anybody that's watched Kevin and I on these shows every Wednesday for these past months, I've talked about Kevin's integrity and his work ethic. He doesn't have to talk about who he is, vice versa, because the bottom line is I've worked with him and I know who he is. So I say all that to say that, but to learn how to be, to have insight, it comes from listening and learning. I can't teach heart. This job can't teach you heart. It can't teach you that, because Kevin can be 20 years in this game. Don't mean he want to go in that building and fight the big black guy that's 6'3" and 250 pounds. I'm not saying me at 6 feet want to fight that dude either. But the bottom line is, I'm sure Alicia and Mike may not want to do that. But the bottom line is, I know enough that if I see the 6'5", 250 black guy, before I escalate this shit, I might step back and be like, yo, Central, send me an 85, like 5 cars. And then I may engage. You understand what I'm saying?
Many times you're going to pick up on those cues, right? You're going to pick up on those cues. If there's enough time and you're interacting, you'll pick up on certain cues where you're going to go, this is not going to go well. I better
exactly
request backup.
Strangely, Pastor, strangely, in my career, the big man rarely fought. It was always the skinny
Napoleon. Yep.
punk kid. Yeah, it was always the punks, right? Like, but the big guy, and I think they just realized like this wasn't going to end well. Like like they turn around, they tower over you. They're jacked beyond belief, and they know they're going to win. But what are they going to win? Is kind of the end result. Either a longer jail sentence or I'm shooting them. Right? Like.
But you know what's so funny?
And they usually just put their hands behind their back and get skinny kids fought.
Kev, Alicia, and Mike, and I'm sorry, but you're so right because you touched it. A big guy, no, listen, you big, I'll shoot you. But it'd be the little one. You be like the little Muggsy Malone. He'd be like fighting all day. You'd be like, oh, this cool kid. You don't want to stop. You know what I'm saying? So, Kev, let's go to the video. I'm going to go to the video. Everybody, Kev, give us some insight on this video before we play it.
All right. So, I mean, this is Pennsylvania. It's a prisoner transport. This guy's arrested. We have all done
transports,
hundreds of prisoner transports, and we try to,
that transport was just with one officer, though. I saw a quick video. I just saw one officer.
Yeah, different places.
We're going to find out right now. We're going to check it out. You ready?
How many, places, precincts, one officer sits on the prisoner in the hospital, right? Like, we do things that are not the smartest. We're NYPD, so we're used to just having people. Right, These are small departments. They're single-man patrols. So a single-man patrol, and it's prisoner transport. It's supposed to be the safest thing we do. They've been searched. They're cuffed. What could go wrong? Kind of.
And we're going to find out right now. I'm about to play it right now, everybody. So right now we're about to watch a video on how even if you have your guard up, it still can go wrong. All right, here we go. Let's see.
And I mean, I'm going to kill the volume on it. This thing occurred quickly because the only volume is the music. It's instant, right? This guy, he just opened it. He went to open the door, let the prisoner out, and there were shots fired at him. There's no time. You're not expecting this. And unfortunately, this is sometimes what happens with this job. And it could be done like this. It could be done as a car stop. I've seen there's plenty of videos that a cop pulls the guy over and he just gets out and starts blasting.
I'd like to know the name of the person who searched him.
Believe me, so with this cop. And if he didn't get hurt, there might be a locker room incident after this. But shit happens. What are the rules there for searching? Lots of places change the rules on you're not allowed to strip search. How small of a gun? Where was it secreted? Did he actually have the gun? Was the gun in the car from a previous prisoner that was stuffed under the seat? Was the seat searched properly? I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. And if you work long enough, you're going to be witness to an incident in your precinct that went bad, where a cell, there's a gun found in a cell. There's a gun found in the backseat of a car. I don't think there's any of us in our career who have not had that happen in our command at some point.
I mean, I had an incident where I called for backup, and the backup searched the guy, tossed him before putting him in the RMP, and just out of habit, I said I wanted to still toss this guy, and I found a machete, like a huge machete in his pants that they missed. And it's not a gun, but it can do just as much damage.
Sure. And then how easily can that person get insulted? I was already searched. Why are you doing this again?
That's what happened.
Yeah, and it's not because we're jerks or we're idiots with this. There's a safety issue, and I can't tell you how many videos like this I've watched in my career. It god awful. It's too many is the answer. So we do try to be a little careful, and that's why people get cuffed.
And I think the general public understands that police officers have a very dangerous job, and that at any moment they can, be faced with a life and death situation. As police officers, police officers can't just take out those situations, or the anger, frustration, fear of those situations on everyone, and make a blanket statement that applies to everyone, because that's when those the trust between the community and the police department break down. And as difficult as a police officer's job is, I learned very early on that we wear many hats, and that depending on, the situation you come upon, that's what determines which hat you're wearing at the moment. So if you're dealing with someone who's mentally ill, at least when I was on, right away you have to call for either ESU, or you're not going to engage that person, that individual, the same way you would a regular perp, unless it poses immediate, an immediate threat to your life or someone else's. You do see a lot of what appears to be trigger happy people, and a lot of conversations that are being recorded by their, the camera that they're wearing, conversations that shouldn't take place, should not be condoned, allowed, and should absolutely have consequences. I don't know now. Things have gotten so far beyond what they used to be. I don't know how we repair that at this point.
And somebody, Alicia, that's why we're here to get today. And just for everybody's sake, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I have the Rural family, Alicia and Mike and Alicia, whoever wants to go first. Don't start me, start no trouble. I have Pastor Kevin Graves in the building. This is a Real Talk family. They've been here before. Everybody's been here before. I got my co-host Kevin Branzetti, and I'm your host Bill Forster, and we're just having real talk. Listen, there isn't any right or wrong. We're just trying to find the easiest way where officers can go home safe. People don't feel like people of color being ostracized and killed to a point where they are like the sacrificial lambs. Sharon said something. Sharon Klesko said everyone has a responsibility, but we should also look at the administration. They create the culture in the police force that is their responsibility. What is your take on that, Kevin, Alicia, and Mike, and then Pastor Graves? Go ahead, Kevin. I'll read the question again if you didn't get it.
Yeah, give it to me again.
Sharon Klesko said, everyone has a responsibility, but we should also look at the administration. They create the culture in the police force. That is their responsibility.
I don't know if this, I think in general, yeah, they create that. I don't know what's the immediate agenda of a police force, right? But they can't create the culture. The culture's there. But they don't work to change a culture, because that's long-term thinking. Government does short-term thinking. What's good for me right now? What's going to get me reelected? Good praise at the moment, but not what's going to help the mayor down the road or two mayors down the road, right? And that's, changing training, doing better, tactics training for cops, more hand-to-hand training for this costs money. You have to, defund police is the complete wrong thing. It's refund. It's institutionalize more funding into them, and let's train them and make them what we actually believe and want them to be, which is, a professional police force that understands the public, but also knows how to fight. Right? You got to know how to use your hands and your firearm. But that costs money. So is this mayor or the previous mayor going to do it for the next one? No. And and it's not nothing against the mayor in office now. That's not his policy. That's every single one of their policy. We're short-term thinkers. And so there's the mayor. Yes. You think when Rudy came in, did he change the culture of the PD? Yeah. Immediate, right? They wanted arrest, and Bratton came in and wanted, cops to be aggressive.
Zero tolerance policy.
Yeah. And I argue that was probably the right policy at the right time. And Bratton, I think, is why I think he's one of the best commissioners ever. In his second run, That wasn't his policy anymore because the city was a different city, right? When you had 2,300 murders, you had to do something, right? To me, I looked at when we were at 2,300 murders, city government failed New York City. And then the police were the last line of defense to turn it back. So the police did their job of pushing the tide back. Were there times we're over-aggressive? Yeah, of course there were. Were there times we shouldn't have done 100%? But did we change education? Did we change the culture of poverty in the city? No. How do we change a neighborhood like the 2-8? Because a neighborhood like the 2-8 is different than when I first worked there.
Absolutely.
We didn't change, and help the people there improve. We pushed them out and had new people move in. And that's how the 2-8 has outside cafes.
Yeah.
We did it all wrong.
And let me just interject. Let me interject, Pastor, real quick. I totally get it, and I think what we're part of a system that some have certain ideologies, and some, like us, are about being police officers. Like I always tell people, don't call me a cop. I think that's a derogatory thing. That's Clint Eastwood. That's Dirty Harry. I'm a police officer. I'm the dude that's walking down the street and, swinging the billy club in the hand and then be like, hey, Officer Forster, hey, how you doing? Wave it. And then there's a situation. Then I do what I got to do. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is I've always wanted, and I always carried myself to a point where you respected me when I came down there. You know what I'm saying? From Jane Q. Public to Noriego, you know what I'm saying, the drug dealer, you know what I'm saying? You when I came on the set, you understood. The situation is gonna go either one or two ways, but it may not go good for neither one of them. But somebody gonna get the business. You know what I'm saying? But we don't have to get the business, because the bottom line is I'm here to do my job. And that's what I think is missing a lot. This whole story that we're talking about tonight, and before we end, it's all about how can we find a better solution, because the bottom line is, like I said, right now the city is just, people are shooting in broad daylight like it's the wide open, the OK Corral. That has to stop. It needs to stop. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what's happening where Alicia and Mike are, and I'm gonna ask you about that. But the one thing I do know right now is that people, Kevin, you and I talked about this, and we talked about the Republican and Democrat. You can elaborate real quick, and then I'll go to Pastor and Alicia and Mike. But the thing is, the reform bill, letting people out, it was a big mistake. And that's why I say people need to speak to people that have some kind of knowledge and ideology on, listen, you don't let a dude that has 7 murders and, let him out because of bail reform. That's not the dude that you let out. You know what I'm saying? You want to talk about the dude that may have got pulled over for drunk driving, and he was inebriated and it's up in the air, and because he doesn't have $500, because he's a hardworking man and he takes care of his family, and maybe $500 bail is not what he has. So should he stay 5 days in jail? No, maybe I don't feel that either. But the dude that has priors for violence, no, I don't feel you should let him out. So Kev, elaborate on that, and Pastor, and then Alicia and Mike.
We created laws, one-sided, and we can go to any law and group at the time you want to do it. When one side's creating the law and not listening to the other, you got bad law. I don't even need to read it. I knew it was good. When this was coming down, the laws, I knew it was going to be bad. It was created by that's not the Defense Attorney Association, but it's in the Defense Attorney Association realm. It's one of those. It's in that category, without prosecutors or cops getting a say. Yeah. Now, did we have things that were wrong? Yes. Should there have been people held in? You're caught with a petty larceny, stealing some stuff out of CVS, and you're held in jail for 2 weeks or a month? Hell no, that shouldn't happen.
I think that's even kind of oversimplifying it, because I guess the reason they started letting people out and created this new law is to right past wrongs, right? People of color have been disenfranchised. They have been targeted by the judicial system in this country at much greater, at disproportionate rates from whites. And in an effort to balance that or tip the scales the other way, they went way too far the other way. But the fact is that the judicial system in this country is still a very racist system. It is based on racism and discrimination and oppressing and disenfranchising people of color. That needs to be dealt with before we can start talking about how do we fix this problem of it going way too far the other way. Because there is.
We could fix it all. We should be working to fix it all, right? Like it shouldn't be one piece or the other. It should be. We should have people with sensibility sitting down together and putting a commission together and coming up with ideas to fix both directions.
No, you're absolutely right.
One. And I'll argue that this is also the system's against the poor, right? Poor people go to jail, rich people go home.
And poor people tend to be of a certain race and nationality. It all comes back to that. We don't want to make everything about race, but the sad reality is that this country was built on this idea of racism and discriminating against a particular group.
Slavery. And
things haven't changed. When they say school to prisons, that pathway, that is a very real pathway. And a lot of people may not believe in systemic racism, but the fact is that there's plenty of evidence to support that there is systemic racism in law enforcement and, in all areas of the judicial system. Until people feel that is changing, it is going to trickle onto the police department because they are part of that broken system. Police officers are part of that broken system. And just to go back to the lady's question, I think that superiors in the police department do need to hold officers responsible, because even those any type of microaggression is still aggression. Microaggression that goes unchecked leads to people feeling emboldened and empowered to act superior to other people and therefore act out in ways where they're disrespecting you when they pull you over. They're quick to pull their guns out. They're quick to put hands on you. All of that, it has to start at the top of NYPD and trickle down. And you're right, the system, they didn't create the culture, but they're all too happy to support it and to keep that culture going that's been around for decades and decades. Cops, as a Hispanic in the police department, I can't tell you the number of times I had arguments with officers because of the straight up racist, derogatory racial epithets that they would say in my presence. And it's unacceptable. And the fact that it goes unchecked is ridiculous. And just to make one more point, when I started in the 4A, that is a predominantly minority community. The precinct had predominantly minority officers, and SNU, crime, CPAP, all of those units were predominantly the white officers. There was one black sergeant, Sergeant Barry, who he took it upon himself. He had, I think it was crime at the time of SNU, I don't recall, but he took all minorities, and he was heavily criticized for only selecting minorities, even though all of the other units had all whites in a minority precinct. So it's that kind of mentality, that superiority mentality that goes unchecked, that creates these issues. It contributes to them, it creates them, it fosters them, and unless that changes and people are held accountable for what they say and what they do, I don't think things are going to get any better. We're going to kind of sugarcoat it, put a Band-Aid on it, and move on. But if we really want systemic change, it has to start with, the administration in PD doing their job, diversifying the rank and file, right? Because you don't have as many minorities in high-ranking positions in the police department. Now you're starting to see a shift in that, and that's great. But that wasn't always the case.
Yeah. And what's so funny, Kevin and Pastor Kevin, I'm gonna let you chime in, but I want Mike to chime in. I just want to let everybody else out there know too. Alicia's a educator, so not just she has a knowledge in law enforcement, but also she has a knowledge in education in that aspect. So she's not talking out of her derriere just to be talking. The bottom line is, I don't have people on here just to converse. We have people out here that have some kind of background and some historical speaking in of history. Go ahead, Mike. Give me your insight on just what we're talking about, brother. I know you've experienced a lot of diversity, good, bad, and different, from being a person that they think you one thing and not think you another. But the bottom line is, you could elaborate on that, but just give me some insight too and what you think we need to do going forward, and then I can throw it back to Kevin and Pastor. Go ahead.
But going forward, I think we all need to sit down and get together. And speak, like I said, as one, and not to be like, oh, well, you're a black guy, I'm Hispanic, you're a white guy, and divide ourselves. You see it on Facebook, Bill. You see the guys that I deal with, guys that I work with, the way they talk to me, the way they try to, say things to me, and I come at them with that. And these are guys I worked with, and they're gonna say, oh, you're a disgrace because And we've had this, and you see the conversations that go back and forth with them. It's broken from the inside, and we need to fix the inside first before we can come out to the public. Because when we're fighting amongst ourselves, and a lot of people don't realize it, that it's a struggle inside. And like what Alice was saying before, there's not enough people of color or women in rank. Even me, listen, I was an undercover for about 10 years. When I would go to training, I got some crazy training, and I was like, this is really good training that some of the guys on the regular street cops should get. But then when I go to this training and they're talking to the guys going, all right, what grade are you? And I would sit there and I go, I'm still a third grader. And they go, what? I go, because I wasn't respected as one of the serious undercovers, even though I was one of the most successful guys in my group.
Exactly. And let me just interject, Mike, for a second. Listen, we all know, and this is no disrespect to the people that have had hooks, because there's some people that have hooks that I love them to death. But I've known people that have never hit the street in almost 20 years, got first grade. Mm-hmm. And I've seen people like myself and Mike and Kev or Alicia or whomever, we could be out there in the muck and the mire, and you'd be like, oh, we're not going to put you in. What? Are you kidding me? You know what I'm saying? So go ahead. So like I said, I'm not disrespecting and I'm not hating on anybody to get what you get, because bless you, because when you hate on somebody else, you block your own blessings. And I've never been that dude. Anybody that knows me with that. But go ahead, Mike, just piggyback on what you were saying. Go ahead.
Like you were saying before, people who do payroll get the grade, and we're out there in the street. I've trained other undercovers that they wanted me to go into a unit to train other people, and I still didn't get the respect enough to get at least second grade, or I worked with guys that had a case going on with it because he knew somebody jumped up second and first grade within a year and a half, So there are a lot of things, getting back to what we were talking about before, that we need to fix inside amongst ourselves. And then Alice brought up before the CPR, I remember we went down to Fordham University and spoke to the public and how we can do things better with each other as a community. I think that was a good idea. I think I think that that's something that we need to get back to. Like I said, when I was in uniform, I never thought I was better than anybody else, and I always treated that person who I'm dealing with that respect, if not more respect, because I know when they see the uniform, they're not looking at the person; they're looking at their uniform. And maybe the guy before me, the cop before me, wasn't nice, or did something, and now I have to try to fix that and change this person's, it changed his idea of how we are as a whole.
And let me tell you something, Mike and Alicia, and I tell you, Kevin, anybody knows me, Pastor Grace. If I get to sit at the table with the hierarchy, I will definitely, if I can bring you all along, I would definitely do that, because the bottom line is this is a diverse group. This is Real Talk Chronicles, everybody. This is people right now. We're not sitting here bashing anything. We're not talking about people of color or bad. I mean, everybody. What the five of us are doing is holding everybody accountable for what you need to do. People of color need to be more responsible, and law enforcement needs to be more responsible. Like I said, I'm just trying to give some insight, because the conversations that you're having now, you're not going to have with anybody. Either you're behind the cuffs, or you're going to get cuffed. You know what I'm saying? So right now, please embrace this. Share this conversation with people. If you like it, share. If you're on YouTube, people that are on YouTube, subscribe to it. Put the thumbs up. Just share it. Kev and Pastor Kevin, what do you think we need to do going forward? And well, matter of fact, yeah, I'm going to go Kevin, Pastor Kevin, and I'm going to Alicia and Mike. Because we want to end on a positive note. During the holidays. Like I said, the streets are lawless, and New York. I get the information. Man shot on 132nd in the head. Brooklyn, there was a shootout. I don't know what's happening in Florida. Uh, you guys, a lot of you two are my intel with my other friends out there in Florida. Kev and I. Kev, you're dealing with a lot of stuff. From kidnappings and domestic violence and stuff. Pastor Graves has just hooked me up with some in January with some good stuff that we're going to do with domestic violence and also some other things, literacy. But I just want to give some personal. I want you guys to give your insight, your personal feelings on what it is, and Pastor Graves. I'm gonna start with you, and then I'm gonna go to Kevin, and I'm gonna go to Alicia and Mike. Because I said to you, I asked you earlier, Pastor, before this conversation, do you think what do you think is missing in the household that people are just committing these crimes? That, like, let me tell you something. All of us here are at ages where we're like, we don't want no problems, Like, we'll move before we get into shootouts and shit. Like, like what? Oh shit! Somebody broke in my car. Okay, pack your shit, honey. Yeah, all right. I'm saying, like, I don't want no problems. I'll be 56 January 6th. I don't want any more problems in my life. I do not want to ever put my hands on another person besides my wife. That's it. So, Pastor Graves, give me some insight, and then Kevin, Alicia, and Mike, just give me some insight. What do you think? What is going on? What's happening in our world, in our community, in our life that is causing us to lose common sense of life and wanting to be just law-abiding citizens? Go ahead, please.
Number one, there's a lack of respect for one another. I believe that you have some individuals in some households where, and this is not every household now, where, let's say, the mother is present, but the father's not present. Or maybe the mom and dad they are there. But are they paying attention to their children? Are they monitoring their children in a sense where they're communicating with them? They're having discussions. And I think we're in that age where we are on our phones, even around the dinner table. I had touched on this earlier, where we're not talking anymore. We're not communicating with one another. And I believe, yes, we have lost something as a society when it comes to communicating. I'm not talking about texting or, I can hit you up on FaceTime. Put your phone down. In fact, I don't want to see your phone on the table. Let's have a conversation. We have gotten away from that in many households where we're not conversing with one another. We talked about asking the question, how are you? How was your day? How you doing, dear? Husband walks in from a hard day's work. The wife is home. Dinner's prepared. How you doing? Give her a kiss, a hug. How was your day today, sweetheart? How was your day today, son? My daughter, so on and so forth. We don't say my daughter, but how you doing? How was your day? How was school? How's your homework coming along? How's everything going in school? In case there's any bullying going on. You want to also monitor what our children are doing online as well. There's some cyberbullying that can go on just the same. So it's being in tune with one another. And in this society and the 21st century, because of technology, and technology is not the blame here, because remember, we're still human beings, and I know we get carried away. We love technology. We're using technology now. It works. But we have become disconnected with one another, where we are now preoccupied with technology and communicating that way via StreamYard and Facebook, instead of saying, okay, let's put the technology aside and engage one another. Look at me eye to eye. When we can. Of course, we're in a pandemic, so obviously there's certain restrictions. But in the home, we need to get back to that place of communicating and respecting one another and loving one another and honoring one another. And that's what it's going to take to bridge this divide. And on the street, well, today there was a shooting. I was informed not that long ago. I knew this earlier. It was a shooting on West 132nd Street where a man was killed. There is a lawlessness in the land, and if I can take this to the spirit, where this is what we are seeing. And this is what the Spirit of the Lord, the Holy Spirit, has revealed to me as a minister, as a pastor, that there is going to be a great separation, meaning that there is a lawlessness in the land. And God is raising up individuals, men and women servants, who are not afraid to go into the byways and hedges, to speak to government, to speak to law enforcement, to speak to the community, that, look, there is a better way. The path we're going down is not the path we should be going down, whether we're out on a street corner or we're bringing this message via Facebook. We need to make it plain and make it clear that the direction we're going down, this is not the way. This is not the path. This is the path to destruction. So I'm hoping, and thank you, Alicia. I just want to say also, thank you all for your service to law enforcement. Bill, Kevin, Alicia, Mike, thank you so much for your service to law enforcement, to the NYPD. God bless you. And I don't think you hear that enough. So I just want to take time to say God bless you and thank you for putting yourself on the front line for me and for other civilians as well. And we don't say thank you enough. Many civilians don't say thank you enough. And I want to be one of the many that truly honor and respect what our police officers mean. Now, not all of us get it right. I get it. And we definitely need more accountability. But those that do their job with professionalism and courtesy and respect, I honor you, I respect you, and continue to be an example to other police officers.
Awesome. And let me just say this real quick. I appreciate you so much, Pastor Graves. You know, you've helped me behind the scenes and work on certain things. I just want to shout out Carlos Castro, our former 2-8 brother, Kevin, and Susan Brownsville Vega. You know, I worked with her in the Bronx DA's office, you know, wonderful sister. You two are always welcome. First and foremost, wishing you all happy holidays, but you two are always welcome to come and give us some insight, your professionalism on how we can help make this world a better place with law enforcement and people in our communities. A lot of times what Kevin and I do, and you know, I know a lot of people think because I don't talk. Mike, you know this. Alicia, you know this. If you don't say rah rah rah, Blue Lives Matter, you're against blue. Kev, you know this too. You're against NYPD. How am I be against anybody that's paying me to sit here and talk to you right now? You know what I'm saying? That's buffoonery. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is, I'm not going to, listen, I'm going to call a spade, and I'm going to call a heart and a club. So that's what it is with me. And I say that because right now, there isn't anything they can do for me later. I don't understand why people like Kevin and Alicia and Mike are not heard of more. And when you are heard of, it's like, chop their heads off and throw daggers at them. because you just don't go along with the system at hand. Listen, everybody, people have a mind and a body and a soul before this job. I tell people all the time, I have people tell me anytime, oh, you're law enforcement. No, I'm black. I'm Bill from the block. Me, you know what I'm saying? I ain't J-Lo, but I'm Bill from the block. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to talk to you about regular stuff. Like if I grew up with you, Alicia and Mike and Kevin and Pastor Kevin, I want to talk about stuff that we did when we was young. Now, yes, can we form certain ideologies? Absolutely. But let it not change who you are. Kevin, if you love your neighbor, Pastor, if you love your neighbor, Alicia and Mike, if you love your neighbor, then still love your neighbor. People got this thing crazy. I just want to read a couple of comments real quick. And then, I'm gonna go to you guys. Mark said, real talk. This is when we were talking about something else. He said, when servicemen and women return home, society has a way of saying, welcome home and thank you for your service. To all of you on this panel with love, thank you for loving a career and protecting the community against the evil in the streets, in the homes and corruption. God bless you all. Thank you, Mark. That's my dude. Sharon Klesko, she said she's been here. She said, this is what I'm talking about with the administration. Bullying is condoned and rewarded. Yeah, it can be, Sharon. And then let me say something. I work for the city. I know that. I personally know that. I know what Sharon does. And she says, and notice, and I noticed a pattern and about controlling people that's not policing. Yeah, it's a different thing. It's a tough world that we all live in, and we just trying to want a better place. Marquetta said, a lack of education is the house in the household and discipline. You can't expect change if you have older, ignorant people raising our new generation. Change starts from in the root. Absolutely, with that. Sharon said, no, it's a system. We are all the human. Kevin Branzetti, what do you think?
Well, we went through a lot of things there. I'm trying to remember the question you went and asked instead of the four of us would answer. And I don't even remember.
That's all right.
Anymore.
That's the beautiful thing about me. Once these lips start flapping, baby, you never know when they're going to stop. Yeah, exactly.
That's real talk. Huh? We were talking about the shootings, the spike in them, and what's it caused by, and how do you get by it? Look, I think the cause is,
Hold on, Kevin.
People feel free to carry guns.
After you said that, I said that. Malika started laughing. Why was laughing? Well, it was the truth. No, she said she agreed with it. Everybody, there's my lovely wife in the background. That's Alicia and Mike and Kevin and Pastor. And where's our other sidekick that was in here? Excuse me, everybody. I was looking down for a reason. And come back here, Malika. Can you just show everybody who was in here with us that was just disturbing us and he just came to give you some love. He was giving us some love, but right here, this little rascal right here. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna put him on the keyboards, Alicia. So that's what he was doing. So he wanted to chime in on the topic, but I didn't have dog conversation. So anyway, well, thank you, my sweetheart, my beautiful wife. She has design interactions and she has soft solutions. So that's about her business segment. She'll be back with you in January, in the new year. In the new year, exactly. So go ahead, Kev, and then Alicia, and I'll let you finish it up. Go ahead.
So what I was saying was, people at this point feel free to carry guns, right? There are kids, and I'm going to call them kids because mentally they're still kids. They might be in their 20s, they might even hit their 30s, but sometimes as men, we don't mature into adults until every one of us has a different age. So I'll call them kids. These kids think they feel comfortable carrying guns. And they get into disputes with somebody on the street, and instead of hands, because they feel free to carry a gun, now all of a sudden the gun's into play. And we've had a lot of those styles of shootings in the city. Do I mean then the answer is cops have to be more aggressive and start searching and tossing people left and right? No, but there's got to be some sort of happy medium that we need to start talking about and working towards. Cops can't feel like they can't touch somebody, and I don't blame cops. Like, I'm not blaming cops. We created laws like the diaphragm law, which is, terrible. And as a working cop, I know what the goal was. And this is sometimes I think we lose track of things. What is our goal? We want a better police department. We want cops to be fairer. We want cops to be, do their job. But not mistreat anybody. And so sometimes we create laws to try to solve things, and we see, what happened with Floyd being murdered on his neck. So we start creating rules on you can't put your knee here, your shoulder there. No law is going to change that. What that cop did was murder. Murder's already on the books. What happens, though, is we create laws that stop the 4 cops that are sitting on the screen from when we were on the street, we would be afraid to do our job. So we have to make sure when we're looking for a solution, we're looking at it from the perspective, I want to stop the bad guy, but I don't want to have the ramification of stopping the good cop as well. And I'm telling you, that's what's occurring. That's the way, cops feel. I'm not sure. The diaphragm law, how many, and Mike, I don't know you guys, Alicia, don't know you, but I would tell you, I would have committed a crime at least 100 times in my career, according to that law. 100 times I could have been arrested. Thankfully, the statute of limitations, they can't go backwards with that law. And it wasn't because I choked out somebody. It wasn't because I was stomping on some guy's chest while he's cuffed on the floor. I would never do such a thing. But a fight's a fight. And I can't exactly help where my hands are going to go all the time. My goal is not to stop this person from breathing. My goal is to put him in cuffs. And sometimes people don't like it, and it gets ugly. Right. So we need to be smarter about, what is our end goal and what is the cost of how we're planning to get there. And I think at the moment, the cost of planning to get there is what we're seeing, unfortunately.
I would even touch on the... Oh, I'm sorry.
Hold on, Pastor. I'm gonna let you finish, Kevin, and I'll let you pass, and we're gonna open it up before we close out and say goodnight. And we're gonna open up this conversation. And Kevin, you touched on some points. I had an officer say to me one time. I had a black officer say to me. He said, "with I forgot. Oh my God, who was the officer that I think punched somebody and it hit it? I don't know if it was Pantaleo with George with Eric Gardner, but they were saying about the fact that if you're fighting with if you're fighting somebody and you punch them and they hit their head, should you lose your job? It wasn't intentional of the punch, and I had to sit in and think about this. It's a real slippery slope because we know Eric Gardner didn't deserve to die. I think the 4 officers here would have handled that differently. I say that with not, I don't know Planton and Leo. I don't know this dude. Did he have to jump on him? I look at it from a martial artist, a man, a police officer, a black man. Those other officers were scared to engage with him. Plantaneo, he jumped her from behind. That situation, like you said, Kevin, could have went that way 100 times for us all in the past. You know what I'm saying, Mike, Alicia. Just being an active officers, certain things can happen, but I think from a point of I would have handled that differently. You understand what I'm saying? And I think this is where we're talking about tactics and de-escalating and how to interact with people in the community. I think
there's a big difference, like you said, between using, employing good tactics and really trying to protect yourself and others, and acting with depraved indifference. Like George Floyd, that was depraved indifference. You saw the look on his face. He meant to kill him. He wanted to. He could care less if he killed him, and he killed him. Yes. That is not you employing good tactics and trying to protect yourself or others. So that
And Alicia, let me interject for a second. Let me just interject for a second. If I would have been working with you, Mike, or Kevin, and Pastor, you would have just been a bystander. If I'd have had that, first that George Floyd situation wouldn't have happened with us, the 4 of us. I'm sure it wouldn't have happened. But say like a Gardner or anybody else, I would have been like, listen, I ain't trying to fight this dude. You ain't trying to fight this dude. We're gonna talk this dude down until the numbers come where he feels he needs to put his hands behind his back. I don't feel that I have to interact. My manhood does not allow that I have to engage with him when it's 2 or 3. So I personally, with these lips of mine, I'd have been like, yo, listen, my man, stop. Come on, put your hand behind your back. You got to leave. But if you're not
Most
going
of
to
the
leave,
time, that's pretty much how it went down.
exactly.
It's gone so far.
It could have still, that scenario could have still happened, right? We could have still been in a scenario still where we did tackle the guy, right? The difference is it's the tackle, you cuff, and then it's a human being again, right? And that's where I have some issues with some of these incidents, right? That guy's laying on the floor in distress. He's our responsibility. That's a man laying there.
Quality of life, right?
You know, that's not, you know, and that's not even a man who committed like a bad crime. It's not like somebody we just got for, you know, he did something to some, he did something to some, you know, like he was wanted because he was selling, you know, videos of raping 10-year-old kids, right? Like, you know, that's not what he was. And even if he was wanted for that, he's still a man laying there in distress. It's our job. And that's the difference that I've seen in some incidents where, yeah, could we have tackled him? Yeah. Did my arm ever go around somebody's neck? I am sure it happened.
Yeah,
I am completely sure it happened.
The heat of the battle is different, but like you said, once the cuffs are on, it's over. It's done.
Cuff, get them up, and if they need to go to the hospital, you take them to the hospital. You need to call an ambulance, you call them an ambulance. But it's somebody just laying there saying, I can't breathe. I can't, you know, there's a problem. And that's where I had an issue with that. And I think if you find the original video, I think it was 9 minutes.
Yeah.
He was there. If I recall it correctly, it's very hard to find them now because now they're all cut up the videos and put into different. So I don't know the full one, but I thought it was like 9 minutes. EMS was there for a long time.
I don't think I ever worked with an officer that would have kept their knee on someone like that. I didn't see that when I was in the 4-8. I don't.
Was it tempting to punch somebody afterwards who had a mouth?
Sure.
Yes. Yeah. And if I knew Bill was hooked, it was my job after the guy's cuffed to make sure Bill's pulled to the side and we have a talk. And it was Bill's job to make sure he pulled me to the side. Because we all can get hooked once in a while. And we could all have that moment where we lose it. Right? It happens.
When someone says they can't breathe, we have to make a decision.
Yeah. And Pastor, I've had people screaming, I can't breathe, or you're hurting while we're trying to cuff them. And you know, and they're full of it, like they're completely lying. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard people screaming, you know, get off me, you're hurting me, and they're just, you know, placating to the crowd to try to get people riled up. It happens. So also, we can become deaf to those words. We can, because we hear them often. I've heard similar words often in my career, but cuffed is over. And that's the thing that was missing on that scene. And I don't care if it was the cop who actually did the grabbing. There's 10 other cops there. The senior people there, the sergeant there, should have said, "What's wrong?
Go.
You know, let's sit him up.
Right.
You know, where's the ambulance? Where's the help?"
Well,
I think that's what Commissioner O'Neill was saying as well when the firing came down. And some people can say, well, he did that to protect the officers, whatever the reason is. He felt, Commissioner O'Neill felt he had to make a decision with regards to Officer Pantaleo's firing.
But then my answer to that, Kevin, is though, if he was fired for...
Hello, can you hear me?
You coming in and out.
I'm in and out?
I got you. We got you now.
There you go.
Okay. Is that...
Go ahead, Pastor. We got you. Continue.
I think
I just want
to... there you go.
Hold on for a second. I just want to shout out my man, Irvin. He's in Europe. He's checking us out by Facebook and YouTube. You know, everybody, Pastor Graves will come back. So Alicia and Mike, you know, we want to end on a happy note, a positive note. And when I say positive or happy, really there's not too much that we can say happy and positive. But, you know, we're going into the holidays. We won't be back until January the 1st, and that aspect. So YouTube, just give people something from a law enforcement standpoint, a personal standpoint, an emotional standpoint, a spiritual standpoint, wherever you two want to take your positive affirmations on how people should act and what they should do, from how you think people should be spiritually connected, or what holidays mean to you two. I'm gonna give you some minutes, both of you guys, to converse about and say what you want to say. Then I'm gonna let Kevin say what he feels on the holidays and the spiritual standpoint, where we should go. And then Pastor Graves is going to take us out with a prayer, unless Malika has something she wants to say behind me. And we're gonna try to do the one thing right now. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. If you like what you hear, you see, push the thumbs up on YouTube, share from Facebook. Right now, this is opinions. These are professional opinions, though. These are people that have been in the muck and the mire, and this is what we do. And we're just trying to make this world a better place. If you're not with that, then that's on you. You don't have to rock with me. But the bottom line is, you about to make the world a better place, and I'm your boy, and I'm here to holler at you. I see everybody commenting. Let me see, Marquetta. I'm gonna read what you're gonna say before we get out of here, because I don't want to keep anybody too long. You said you can't be deaf to the words "I can't breathe." A cop doesn't know anyone's health and always take precaution, even if it's true or not. Sharon, she said Alicia is on. I guess she's saying, yeah, Alicia is on point. Hope I spelled it correctly. You didn't, but I was able to catch it. That's why I had to look back on it. Great show, everyone. So,
I think part of the problem is on both sides. So, from law enforcement side, people have these pent up fears, frustrations, anger over a number of things that boil over. And when on the law enforcement side, when they are emboldened to act a certain way, and they finally feel empowered to say and do things that maybe they were very restrained, they let that anger, that fear, boil over. Especially the good cops who probably get blamed for some of the things that the other cops do. But on the civilian side, you have people too who, for years, they're tired of watching people of color dying at the hands of police officers. And I'm not talking about the ones that are out there with a gun trying to kill an officer, but a car stop that didn't have to go that way, a George Floyd that didn't have to go that way. These, the community, people of color, that is frustration, anger, pain, just bubbling over. And both sides are coming to a head. The only way that I think we're going to get to a better place is if both sides take accountability for fixing it. If both sides say, you know what, it's not helping to just keep pointing the finger at the other side. We have to sit down, we have to hash it out, and we're each going to take responsibility moving forward for what we're going to do personally, and as far as police department, as a department, to move forward to try to regain and recoup some of the public trust, and vice versa. The police officers are going to try to get the public's respect back, and the public needs to try to regain the trust they had in the police department at one point. Now, it's going to be difficult, but that's what we're going to have to do. And just as last word, if you have a roof over your head, if you haven't lost anyone to COVID, you have food in your house, you're blessed, be grateful. There are lots of people out here hurting who don't have any of these things, who have lost loved ones. And, for one, Mike and I feel very blessed that we do have a roof over our head. We don't have to worry about employment and, our healths right now. We're being cautious. I wish everyone, happy holidays and a safe and Merry Christmas.
Awesome. Thank you. Mike, what you got to say, brother? She said it all, Mike. She said it all, Mike. I want to hear from you, though, but my man, I know. Let me tell you something. I know our sister Alicia. She could kick it, and she's on point. Let me tell you something. She's 24/7 with it, and I know you're the silent assassin with it. I appreciate it, but just give us some words of love, man, before we chime out of here, man.
I just want to wish everybody happy holidays. Like Alice said before, we are blessed to have our health, have a roof over our head, and have food. And I just think that as humans, we need to all come together and realize, I said it before, but it's about peace and love. We need to love our brothers and sisters, no matter who they are, what they look like. And I think that, it boils down to having respect, for everybody. I like to be respected. So when I'm going to speak to somebody, I'm going to speak to them in a professional way. And hopefully I'll get that back. And if not, I'll just chalk it up as a lesson. Maybe it was a bad day for, that's a bad day for Bill or for Kevin, and, we take it from there. But I just want to, everybody just needs to love each other and respect each other as one.
I appreciate you both. I thank you so much for being a part of the Real Talk family. I know I'll be talking to you two before the year's out, but I just wanted to say happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you too, Buckley. Before we go, we're just gonna let everybody go around the board and say it. Kev, my co-host Kevin Branzetti. Kevin and I will not see you until 2021, God willing. Like I said, I lost ecstasy from Houdini. I lost my man Tony Baker. Tony Brooks. Excuse me. I lost Tony Brooks. He was a former Port Authority police officer. He was doing so many big things in DR. He retired from the Port Authority Police, and then he moved out to DR, and he was doing things with the community. He came back to New York City because he had COVID to see his doctors. We thought he was doing good. We don't know if he passed away with COVID, but he passed away recently. He passed away yesterday. I got the call this morning that he passed away. So, these are people that are not even 60 years old yet, and we're passing away with these issues. We don't know if it's COVID. We don't know if it's COVID related, but we know right now everything is being thrown in the loop. And listen, everybody out there, protect yourselves. Like I said, we're going to go out on some positive affirmations. So I'm not going to ask Kevin about 45. So we're gonna let him go. Alicia and I, we already done. Mike, we already know how we feel about 45. We're gonna drag him out anyway, but I ain't gonna give you that business.
Don't get me started.
Yeah,
I got my ticket to go already. Let's go.
Yeah. We're gonna bring that up in January. So Kev, my co-host, I appreciate you for being with me, trying to bring some insight to just what law enforcement is like from different eyes and perspectives, just trying to bridge the gap between people and things of that magnitude. So Kevin Branzetti, give us some love before we chime out of here.
All right. So first off, Mike and Alicia, Mike, just listening to you guys are gonna have a successful, very long marriage. You do your place very well in this.
Yeah, I trained him well.
I gotta say something now.
Yeah, exactly.
No, be part of the solution, and being part of the solution means if you chose, and I don't care which side you chose, if you just chose a side, you're not part of the solution. Do something to be part of the solution. You have to talk to the other side. You have to listen. You got to try a little bit, and this is a long road. It's a long road. So there's small things, and the small thing, I've talked about this a few times over the course of time. You can go out and just talk to a local cop and say hello, and it doesn't work out very well. Talk to the next one. Chalk that up to just, he's a jerk, and let it go. As the cop on the street, start saying hello to somebody on the street. Just talk to somebody. You never know where you're going to make a friend out there, and making friends in the community has so much benefit for us. Big picture is an organization, as a police department, but little picture is yourself. That could be the person that saves your life one day when you're out there by yourself. It's Christmas. quick thing. I'm thankful. I'm thankful that Bill and I reconnected this year, and he invited me to do the show with him.
I appreciate it.
That's a thankful thing. Bill and I used to have these conversations back in the 90s. We would sit there and have long, deep, race-related conversations. That would probably be uncomfortable for most people, but him and I could talk about anything, and we could pick on each other for anything, laugh our asses off at it, and nobody ever got offended. And that's kind of the way it should be. So I'm thankful for that. I've thrown this out the last couple of weeks. It's Christmas. Pastor, you threw a little bit of it today. Do something for somebody out there, even if it's a small act. All right. I mentioned it the last 2 weeks. I'll mention it again. Nursing homes have been ravaged by this disease. People can't visit them. They usually get school kids coming in, Girl Scouts, Boy Scout troops coming in this time of year, bringing presents, singing, playing games. They got nothing, and they lost probably a third of their friends or a quarter of their friends in this year. Reach out to your local one. See what you can do. Maybe it's just sending a card. Maybe they'll let you FaceTime with somebody. Let's go to, Pastor Graves thing. Maybe they'll just let you FaceTime and talk to somebody there. 15 minutes of your life would make that person's year. I mean, really make that person's year, make a difference. So these are, small things we could do to just a little bit. And if we, there's a few people out there, there's 100 people out there, a couple hundred people. If a quarter of us did it, that's a big difference. If we pushed it to our friends, it's a difference. So not everybody has to change the world. You can change one heart. All right. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Awesome. Pastor Graves, give us some, Malika, maybe, do you want to say anything before we let Pastor Graves take us out with a prayer? Hold on, Pastor Graves.
Yes, absolutely.
Hold on, Pastor Graves. Malika wants to come and say happy holidays.
Hi, I just want to say happy holidays. I echo every single thing that each of you have said. It's all about giving back and checking on people. Bill and I have made a concerted effort this year to just reach out, not just send a text message, but actually pick up the phone, call. It helps just to hear someone's voice. Everyone needs to be checked on in some way, shape, or form. I think some people have the misconception that, they're fine. That person's always good. They're good. You never know what someone is going through. So any little thing that we can do to, cheer someone up or just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. How are you? How are you doing? Not, hey, can you do this for me? We don't want those calls. We just want a call just to know that someone is thinking of you. And that's what the holidays is all about. It doesn't look like Christmas around here. We don't have one Christmas light, 1 poinsettia plant. But I know, Kevin, I'm living vicariously through you and please keep putting the pictures up. I love it.
Yeah. Fa la 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 la.
But trust me, it's in our hearts. It's in our hearts. So we took a nice walk yesterday through the neighborhood, and I'm a big kid, so I love looking at all the lights. But next year, we're going to get a tree next year, right, Bill?
Okay, Pastor.
We have an excuse. We're new. We just moved in here, and
it takes time.
Exactly, Alicia. So, Pastor
September. Come on. 3 months. So put a damn light up.
Listen.
You're not retired. You don't want to do anything.
We're dealing with winter. We got 70, 80 degrees out here. I'm walking around in the pool.
I know. I just saw you on the pool. I was like, yo, ain't nobody thinking about no trees and shit.
That's our next year.
I'm trying to figure out how to put lights on a palm tree. That's the problem.
Exactly. So, Pastor Graves, send us out on some good affirmation, and then give us a prayer. And then we're going to close out, and we're going to wish everybody happy holidays. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Kevin Branzetti, with my co-host, Pastor Graves, with the Real Talk family, Mike and Alicia coming in via Florida, and, of course, my wife, Malika. Pastor Graves is going to send us out on a prayer. I hope that is great for us, praying for better days. Everybody, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We are not here next week. We will be back in January. Pastor Graves set up a good show for us. The first Monday, I'll be back here with Assemblyman Al Taylor. Then after that, Kevin and I'll be back on. No, we won't be back on my birthday, January 16th.
can't believe you're scheduling a show
No,
on your
Kevin, we
birthday.
won't. I won't be here January 6th. We won't be here January 6th. The following week, I'll be back with Pastor Graves with financial literacy, and then on the 11th, on the 13th, on Kevin's night, we'll be back with domestic violence.
It'll all be on your brand new website.
On our brand new website, we'll be posting it.
We're going to launch it next week.
So Pastor Graves,
Pastor, just type it away.
and then Pastor Graves, we're gonna wish for Pastor Graves to have better internet connection in 2021. Because I don't know.
I wish I could type that fast.
So yeah, 2021, we're gonna wish Pastor Graves, we're gonna get him some internet. We're gonna stream him for 2021. Pastor, take us out on some love.
Yeah, I'm tired of these 2 tin cans in a string. I need something more, right?
Go ahead, Pastor. It's on you, brother, please.
Wow. Well, I just want to say thank you, Bill and Kevin, for your invitation. I certainly appreciate you both. Thank you, Alicia and Mike. God bless you for your service to our community. Thank all of you. Thank everyone for tuning in. I know a lot of us are still preoccupied with the presidential election and the runoffs in Georgia come January 5th. All of this is important. Legislation can be very, very important, but more importantly, I want to focus on the legislation. But if we do not legislate the heart, if people's hearts do not change, there is no point in legislating or bringing bills and laws into place. So we need to pray that hearts would be legislated. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We give you glory this day, Lord. We thank you for what you have done. And Lord, I ask that, Lord, you would comfort those who have lost loved ones, Lord. Comfort Bill Foster, who has lost a friend, Lord. I pray that, Lord, you would bring his family peace. I pray that, Lord, in this man's loss, that, Lord, you would bring peace to his family members, Lord. Peace and your understanding in this difficult time, Lord. So many people are in pain. So many people are depressed. So many people are suicidal during the holiday season. And Lord, we ask that you would visit those individuals. Lord, visit them, Lord, through someone, a neighbor, someone even who they would least expect to pay them a visit. Lord, open that door. Hallelujah, to that person who is in need, who is at wit's end, and they've had enough. And they're thinking about taking their own life because they feel no one loves them. No one is listening to them. We are hoping and we are praying that, Lord, you will hear the cries of these men, women, and yes, even children in this season. That, Lord, you would do something supernatural in the lives of these people. That you would bring a visitation, Lord. Allow for someone to come with a word of encouragement or to come even with gifts, Lord. And as we ask that, Lord, you would do something new, that, Lord, you're doing something fresh, do something new, newness of heart, newness of spirit, newness of insight into your kingdom. Open their spiritual eyes and ears to what you are saying and doing in this season. Raise them up as powerful ambassadors in their community to speak truth, to speak righteousness in this difficult time. And we pray for our elected officials just the same, that, Lord, you would govern their thinking according to your perfect will. Let your kingdom come and your perfect will be established in this season. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I am so happy that we ended this out on a good note. Like everybody said, I echo, just try to keep the faith, COVID-19, wear your mask, do your due diligence in your health, whatever works for you. It is what it is. Christmas spend it with your immediate loved ones, you know, the Alicia and the Mikes, Kevin's, and you and your kids, Malika and myself. You know,
And
don't
the dog.
and the dog. Yeah, exactly. Whatever it is. And you know, I mean, remember at this time, like you said, check on people. Try to spread some love and some positivity. Leave the negative energy. Living some 2020 has been what it is. But the bottom line is, what can we do? We just can go look forward. You know, we are all here for a reason. You know, like I said, you know, people are going to lose people during this time. So if you know people that have lost somebody, just reach out and try to be a better person for them, and give them some words of wisdom and encouragement. Um, Merry Christmas, everybody. You know, shout out to the people that have been lost. Shout out to everybody that chimed in with us on YouTube and Facebook. I see you, Sharon. I see you, Lotus. Shout out to everybody. You know, the names Mark, Marquetta, everybody. Too many to go through. I appreciate you. Shout out to Ecstasy. May he rest in peace of Houdini. We'll go out on his song. Shout out to
celebrate every single day.
That's
every
it.
moment.
Every moment, everybody.
We're celebrating.
Shout out to the group. Yeah. If you know the rap, Houdini, the group. Rest in peace, Ecstasy. 56 years old. Everybody, Houdini, if you know rap. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We'll see you, God willing, 2021.
God bless you guys. It's been a pleasure.
Bless you, bless you, bless you. Listen.
All right. Thank you.